A young, dark-haired man lies unconscious on the grass. A worried voice addressed the man on the ground, asking about his well-being. A frightened girl in an elegant dress knelt down next to the man. She was puzzled by the fact that she found herself in an unpleasant situation. Covering her face with her hands due to severe shock, the girl looked at him and could not believe that she was able to knock down Duke Raka-Aintia himself. Duke Raka-Aintia was the main villain. He imprisoned the main character, and then, teaming up with monsters, attacks the imperial family. The girl believed that it was better for her to leave before she was noticed, because if someone saw them together from the outside, she would have problems. A voice was heard nearby, someone calling his brother. It was Aisha Aintia, Raka's younger sister. The girl approached and saw what had happened. She was very alarmed and wanted to know why her brother was lying on the ground unconscious. Behind Aisha, Delkin Aintia hurried towards them. He was the younger brother of Duke Raka-Aintia. Delkane saw that his brother could not open his eyes and assumed that he was already dead. The younger brother and sister arrived in time and looked intently at the girl sitting next to the lying man. Aisha asked her if it was she who killed Rak. The girl put her hand to the back of her head and guiltily asked them for forgiveness. She insisted that there was some kind of misunderstanding. The children were furious. A large snake appeared behind Aisha. She accused the girl of the fact that her brother died because of her. Delkine supported his sister and called the girl a vile priestess. They blamed her for deceiving her, and in their opinion, it was because of the girl Raka-Aintia was in such a state. But this was not true. Their brother was alive, but they didn't let the girl say it. About half an hour ago in the palace, someone present asks Maya if she is ready. The girl opens the door, dressed in a beautiful dress, but her face is full of bewilderment. She discovers that she does not understand where she is. She is surrounded by people in ceremonial attire. They are excitedly discussing Maya's condition. The girl does not realize what is happening. She only remembered exactly how she fell down the stairs and died. Having come to her senses a little, she realizes that she is the center of attention. One of the men anxiously asks the girl if she feels bad. The girl hears her being called Maya and finds the name familiar. After thinking for a while, she suddenly remembers the name Shakir Flower. Flower Shakir was the title of the last book the girl read before she died. Assuming that she was the same Maya, who is a minor character in the novel Shakir Flower, the girl cannot believe it and thinks that it is a dream. Having come to her senses a little, she tries to understand what is happening around her and asks the man again about what they want her to do. The man was surprised by the girl's forgetfulness. He reminded her that earlier Maya herself had said that she would go to the prayer room before giving the blessing. They explained to the girl that today was a sacred day, and strength was supposed to awaken in her. Everything that was happening around her seemed to be true, and she began to come to terms a little with the fact that she was Maya. In the book that the girl read, there was Emperor Kynes, who received blessings on the day of the awakening of the powers of Maya. And about a year after awakening, Maya gave all her strength to save Emperor Kynes, and then fell into eternal sleep. It was not clear to the girl what ability should awaken, but she remembered that a year later Maya was bleeding. Frightened that she was literally created for the purpose of giving her life for Emperor Kynes, and only because of this she would have to die, the girl began to tremble. She decides to stall for time or stop the ceremony altogether. The girl declares that she has something to confess, but one of the women present says that they have no time left for this. Maya panicked. She exclaimed that this was very important. The priestess agreed to listen to her. The girl sighed. Placing her hand on her chest, she said heavily that her powers had not yet awakened. The woman emphasized that this is impossible. The girl tried to protest, but she was accused of lying. She didn't understand why the priestess was so confident in awakening her powers. The woman approached Maya, took her hands, and asked her to let her check. The priestess whispered something indistinctly. The girl watched her in surprise, not understanding what she was doing. They began to shine, becoming covered with a small dome. The woman fell silent. She looked menacingly at Maya, emphasizing that her abilities had definitely awakened. The girl was surprised. She was interested in how the priestess was able to determine this with one touch, and they told her to proceed to the altar. Maya was very scared. The woman said that Maya should never forget about elegance and nobility. She is the daughter of God. The girl didn't know what else she could come up with in order to avoid her fate. She looked at the clergy waiting for her and wondered whether she should bless Kynes and allow herself to die in agony in a year, and Maya announced the start of the action. Sitting on her knees, she crossed her fingers, closed her eyes, and suggested that they begin to pray to their god Teritus. She couldn't believe what was happening because she had only recently died out of stupidity. The girl could not afford to die again, and even so unfairly, but to do this, she needed to escape from the temple. Maya opened her eyes and saw the doors wide open. She thought that now, during prayer, everyone had closed their eyes, and fortunately, there was no one near the doors either. This is the perfect opportunity to escape. She stood up, grabbed the hem of her dress, and rushed forward. The priestess and priest noticed her and shouted after her. Running out of the temple, the girl waved her hand at them, happily wishing everyone a happy stay. She decided that she was renouncing what was destined for her in this novel. And Maya goes in search of her happiness. The clergy realized it. They shouted that she needed to be captured. And the girl accelerated greatly, not giving them a single chance to catch her. This is how a minor character from the novel, Shakir the Flower, made her first escape in order to survive. Maya ran through the forest. A bird flew after her, asking if she could hear her. The girl did not immediately understand whose voice it was. The bird said that if she ran away like that when her powers awakened, she would not be able to find out what would happen to her. The bird ordered Maya to return to the temple. She introduced herself. The bird turned out to be the god Teritus himself. He explained that the girl could now hear him because her powers had awakened. Maya did not stop running, looking questioningly at the suspicious bird. Teritus said that apparently he had reached puberty and handed everything over to Fortuna, after which he fell asleep. He asked if she was running away now or if it was just a walk. The girl grumbled, recommending that the bird disappear or remain silent. Her strength was at its limit, and the screams of the clergy were heard behind her. They spotted Maya, and she continued running, thinking she needed somewhere to hide. After some time, she exhaustedly pressed herself against a tree and sat down, leaning against it. The annoying bird asked if Maya thought anything would change if she ran away from the temple. And did something happen there that he doesn't know about? Maya replied that if she had not done this, she would have died within a year. Teritus asked in surprise how she knew this. She wanted to explain everything to him when she suddenly realized that, apparently, even the god Teritus did not know that they were in a novel and that she was not the real Maya. The girl looked away, saying that it just seemed so to her. Lately, she had often been having prophetic dreams. The bird looked at her suspiciously. The girl believed that first she needed to hide the fact that she was not the real Maya. Teritus laughed. He said, "Fortune was playing a little joke. Maya will not die, but will just fall asleep forever." She awkwardly asked what the difference was. God explained that her body would fall asleep and her soul would go to him forever. Maya exclaimed that this was the same as dying. She got up and moved on. He asked if she could wake up one day. Would she choose the temple? The girl asked how long it would take for her to wake up. Teritus guessed in about 100 years. She looked at him indignantly, asking if he didn't feel sorry for her at all. Teritus did not understand her reaction, saying that it was his rule to love everyone. Maya noticed that he must love Emperor Kynes the most. God replied that he has more feelings for the child who has his gift. He guessed that this poor fellow must have lost sleep because he had invaded the realm of the gods in a human body. This is Kynes' fault. He knew that if he used divine power too much, he would no longer be able to sleep normally. Teritus suggested that some things are inevitable in people's lives. Maya snapped in annoyance, saying that, come to think of it, she had to run away too, because it was an inevitable situation. After all, she was the daughter of a god, pointing out to Teritus that nothing can be done about it. He'll have to find someone else. The deity was surprised by the girl's words. Maya said, "Perhaps there is someone who can put the emperor to sleep just by touching him." She thought, for example, of the main character Reina Adrian from the novel Shakir the Flower. God objected. He needed Maya. He believed that only she could solve this problem. The girl refused to give the emperor's blessing to her own detriment. Teritus continued to persuade the girl, saying that he would talk to the emperor so that he would use his divine powers as little as possible. Maya continued to flatly refuse to return. She thought that as long as there was a villain, the emperor had no choice but to use divine powers. The villain of the novel is Raka Aintia. He kidnaps, imprisons, and even threatens others to get the heroine. Therefore, Emperor Kynes had no choice but to use his divine powers to protect her. The girl never wanted to allow herself to be sacrificed. Teritus exclaimed, inviting Maya to think again, emphasizing that they could not continue like this. She clenched her fists, saying that there was nothing to be done. She felt that she was in danger. Like when she ran away from the temple, her crazy gaze was aimed at the bird. God asked her to calm down. She began to run after the bird, trying to catch it. Tiritus noticed that Maya was as slow as a turtle, which angered her even more. He was nervous that she would still be able to catch him, but continued to mock him. Suddenly, he disappeared. The girl walked, searching the forest, but did not find him. And then she saw something in the foliage and grabbed it. An unknown surprised voice was heard. It was not a bird, but someone's head. The girl noticed how pleasant and soft her hair was, but she was more interested in who it could be. Tiritus flew up to her, sarcastically saying that she definitely didn't catch him. She felt awkward. The bird asked why she immediately decided to grab him by the hair. Realizing this, the girl threw her head away in shock. Coming out from behind a bush, she saw a man lying on the grass, apologizing. She asked if he was okay, but the man didn't even move. The girl thought with horror that after escaping, she immediately became a killer. She sat down next to the body in shock. Turning to Tiritus, she said, "How can this be?" Turning around, Maya finds that the god has escaped despite being an accomplice. Putting her fingers to the man's nose, she felt his warm breath. So he was still alive. She thought that after a concussion, he would be like a vegetable. The girl heard the screams of his brother and sister. The girl claimed that there were no flowers here. Seeing their brother, they were horrified and rushed to him, asking why he was lying there and whether he was dead. They noticed a girl next to him. The children asked if she was a priestess, claiming that people were right in saying that they were all wicked. They demanded an explanation. Maya apologized, saying there was a misunderstanding. The girl exclaimed what a misunderstanding we were talking about, because they only wanted to find the shakir flower. The boy shouted that it was the priestess who was to blame for the death of his brother. Maya tried to calm the children, claiming that their brother was alive, but the children were firmly convinced of his death. The boy ordered his sister to kill the girl. She happily agreed and began to emit black magic. Maya got scared, seeing that Aisha can also use black magic. She said that she could save him, and the brother told Aisha to wait. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he said that what the priestess was saying might be true. Aisha was surprised, saying, "Is he really trying to dissuade her now?" Maya mentally admired Delcane. The girl asked how she could save her brother. The boy emphasized with a completely serious look that she was an adult. He reminded her of her brother's words, that an adult can only revive someone once. He asked his sister if she remembered how he saved Puri, whom they raised together. She remembered saying that after Puri came to life, he became so strange he did not need water or food. The girl concluded that the villain saved the pet using black magic. She wondered if they believed what Raka said. The girl could not even imagine that they were so naive, because in the novel, there is a scene where they mocked the main character. The boy folded his arms across his chest and declared with complete confidence that in any case, the priestess could revive his brother. Although, of course, he was not dead, but who would listen to the priestess? The children turned to the evil sorceress. Maya smiled, asking what they wanted. They ordered her to revive their brother immediately. The girl agreed, saying that she would definitely save him. Aisha ran her finger near her neck, saying that if she didn't succeed, they would kill her. Maya thought how cruel she was and suggested moving the man first. She understood that Raka needed time for him to wake up. She prayed that he would not become a vegetable. They headed to the forest house. All three carried the man on themselves. They were sweating. He was very heavy. The girl was very tired of dragging him. Aisha grumbled if she was going to lay it all on them. Maya suggested taking a short break to get some rest. Aisha wanted to support the girl's idea, but her brother told her not to fall for it. He insisted not to stop to rest, because then he would have to put the body on the floor. They made every effort to drag the Duke of Rock to the bed and lay him down. After catching her breath a little, Maya examined Rock's body. It was stronger than she had initially thought. It just looked very weak now. Aisha pulled the girl by the dress and ordered her to save her brother. Maya asked to wait a little, because she was very tired from carrying her brother's body, but Aisha still insisted on her own. Delcane asked his sister to wait on this. He believed that if they rushed to revive now, Maya might die, and then they would not be able to save her brother. Hearing this from Delcane, Maya suggested that it would now be beneficial to establish communication with him. She began to talk more about her fatigue, persuading them to rest longer. The girl had a cunning plan. She believed that if she could negotiate with Aisha's brother, then she could control her too. Maya began to giggle happily. Seeing this behavior of the priestess, Aisha pointed at her and called her a villain. Delcane saw that everything was fine with the girl and took back his words. Realizing that she won't be able to get out, the girl agrees. And she promises to try to save Rock, but she will need the help of his brother and sister. Delcane did not trust Maya. He showed his index finger and stated that his brother himself saved Puri without anyone's help. The girl explained that this was due to the fact that he had excellent skills. The Duke's younger brother and sister began to praise him, which made Maya laugh a little. Raka was a great black magician who could rival the main character's strength. The children agree to the girl's request and enthusiastically declare their readiness to help. Delcane wants to know what they can do to revive his brother. Maya thought that the children of Duke Aintia's family could not live in this quiet hut, and therefore asked her brother and sister about whose house this was. Delcane, although he does not understand the reason for such interest in this place, still explains to the girl that they are in a temporary house, which their brother arranged for them to collect Shakir flowers. The Shakir flower got its name in honor of the first woman who discovered it. This flower was known for its excellent calming properties. Emperor Kynes often used this flower because his health was unstable due to divine power. First, Maya asked Delcane to pour some water into a basin and bring it along with a towel. The boy immediately rushed to fulfill this wish. There were no tasks for Aisha, and she wanted to know the reason for this. Maya reassured the girl that her brother's help would be enough. Not believing the girl's words, Aisha was indignant and reproached Maya for not taking saving Rock's life seriously, and in response, the girl urged her to believe her words. Having thought about the situation well, Maya suggested that Raka might try to kill her when she wakes up, and for this, she needs a weapon for self-defense, and she comes up with a task for Aisha. Maya asks the girl to bring her a frying pan. Aisha is very surprised by this and wants to know how the frying pan will help the girl revive her brother. The girl explains her request by saying that every adult has his own life-saving ritual and every person has different devices for this. Aisha began to understand that the frying pan was a ritual device. Maya confirmed her guesses and added that it was a huge secret that she had to take with her to the grave, but she had to tell it to the girl. The girl hoped that Aisha would believe this obvious lie. Believing Maya's words, the girl thought that when she became an adult, she would also be able to save someone's life. The girl agreed to bring the frying pan, but before leaving, Maya asked her not to tell Delcane about it in order to keep her method of reviving people a secret. After the girl also left, Maya was able to calmly sit on a chair and rest. She had been very nervous all this time, and now her body was aching with fatigue. Maya looked at Rock. She was very worried about having to use the frying pan. If after this he is unconscious again, then when he comes to his senses, he will immediately try to kill her. Night fell, and the children lay down on the bed together and fell asleep. At this time, Raka was still unconscious. Waiting for the Duke to come to his senses, Maya could not sleep and watched him closely. She took the frying pan in her hands and did not let go of it for a minute. The girl drew attention to the window that was located in the hut. She came closer and opened it. This seemed like a good option for her to escape. Maya turned around once again to look at Raka. She planned to hit him with a frying pan and escape before he woke up and tried to kill her. Suddenly, a voice was heard in the hut. He forbade the girl to carry out her plan. Maya was very scared, because except for her everyone else was asleep. A frightened girl notices a blue bird on the windowsill and recognizes it as the god Teritus. He tells her to put the pan down now. Teritus blames Maya for thinking about killing a man. The girl makes excuses and asks him to speak more quietly so as not to wake up the others. God calms the girl. Now only she can hear his voice, and adds that not everyone is given the ability to hear the voice of God. Maya decides to ignore Teritus and swings the frying pan at Raka. The bird immediately rushes to stop the girl. God categorically forbids her to do this. Teritus stops the girl and blames her for trying to kill Duke Rock. God felt that the man was still alive, and Maya should not have killed him. The girl explained to the bird that she was doing this not because she wanted to kill the man, but just wanted to save herself. God objected to her, because if you hit Rock with all your strength, you can kill him. Hearing this, Maya was a little puzzled, and could not believe that just like that, a villain with black magic skills could die from one hit with a frying pan. Maya told Teritus not to interfere with her, because she also wanted to live. God told the girl that he did not understand her desire to cling to her life. He believed that everyone had their own destiny. The more she listened to God's persuasion, the more she disliked it. Maya increasingly realized that she should follow her destiny, and Teredos supported her thought and ordered her to return to the temple. The girl once again considers God's offer to trust her fate and return to the temple and decides not to do so. She intends to change her destiny. She takes the frying pan again and heads towards Rach. Teredos agrees with the girl's opinion and persuades her to stop, but Maya is sure that she will die if she does not do this. The bird promises her, in the name of Teredos, to take full responsibility for ensuring that the girl does not die. Maya listens to his proposal incredulously. Believing the bird's words, the girl sits on the edge of the bed. She cannot understand why Teredos boils her down so persistently and believes that he is not at all like a god. Maya looks at Rach and asks the bird why God cares so much about this villain. Teredos explains to the girl that the Duke of Raqqa is a very important person. The girl, looking at the sleeping man, catches herself thinking that Teredos really does not know that he is in the novel, or he simply believes that it is important to have a negative character in the novel. She assumed that then the relationship between Reyna and Kynes would not deepen without a villain, or that there was some additional story in the novel that the girl had not read. In any case, in a few days it will no longer matter to her. Morning has come. Maya was sitting on a chair and sleeping with her head on Raqa's bed. Teredos watched her from the window and thought that before the girl had behaved completely differently. God remembered her as gentle and modest. Previously, he was worried that she looked very weak, so he decided to make her physical attributes stronger than other people. According to Teredos's plan, the girl was supposed to return to his arms by the age of 25. Now he believed that Fortune's prophetic dream could have greatly frightened her. Teredos had previously argued that there was no need to interfere, but now he saw how the girl had become stubborn and purposeful. In addition, the threads of communication that enveloped Maya were very twisted, and everything was much more complicated for her than for other people. God knew that the girl also had a special connection with Raqqa, and the Duke, on top of everything else, definitely uses black magic. Teredos did not wait for the girl to wake up, and the blue bird flew out of the window. God was very interested in what would happen in the end. Having come to his senses, the Duke sits up on the bed and touches his head with his hand, because it hurts him very much. He tries to remember what happened and notices a girl by his bed. Raqqa suddenly had a flashback to how she had sneaked up behind him and grabbed him by the hair and then thrown him to the ground. The man smiled and wondered for a moment whether it was worth killing her. He could not imagine that a girl could allow herself to grab him by the hair and throw him to the ground. Raqqa extended his hand towards her to kill her, and a dark magical aura began to appear behind him. He suddenly stopped and thought about the fact that he had not reacted to her then. The girl looked very pale. It seemed to him that her neck was so thin, as if it would break. She definitely looked weak. The moment she grabbed him by the hair, Raqqa felt weak and became somewhat lethargic. This feeling seemed somehow familiar to him. The man then felt the aura of black magic that engulfed him, and the hum that he heard every time he closed his eyes subsided in an instant, and he stopped feeling pain. Raq had the feeling that she acted on him like a shakir flower. He took the girl's hand to check it. This seemed very strange to him. He could not understand why he felt the same effect from a person as from the shakir flower. The girl laughed in her sleep, and Raqqa noticed it. He thought that she was dreaming something good now. The man grabbed her wrist with both hands and mentally allowed her to laugh to her heart's content, as this was the last time he thought she would laugh. He felt that his mind was clouding when he touched the girl. Raqqa could not understand what this was an unheard-of ability. Having changed his mind about killing Maya, the man decides that he has not woken up yet. Raqqa sits on the edge of the bed and intends to go see the twins. He finds a frying pan on the floor near the bed. Taking it in his hands and examining it, the man assumes that Delcain and Aisha were playing here. Raqqa opened the door of the room where the children were sleeping. He barely had time to cross the threshold when the flames of the aura of black magic rushed towards him. The man saw Aisha and called her by name. Raqqa explained to the girl that before attacking, she needs to understand who is standing in front of her. Aisha was still in bed and did not expect to see her brother and attacked him with magic. Raqqa felt that the girl should be given credit for her ability to cope with difficulties and her quick reaction. Delighted at the appearance of her older brother, Aisha began to wake up Delcain. She told him that the evil priestess saved Raqqa. Delcain replied that he was confident that Maya would succeed. The elder brother stood in bewilderment and listened to the twins' dialogue. He thoughtfully touched his chin and tried to find out the details of what they were talking about. The children looked at their brother excitedly. Aisha asked Rock about his appetite, and Delkine was worried that his older brother would not become like Pwiri. Raka put his hand on the back of his head. He remembered how Delkane cried over the loss of the animal, and he revived it with the help of black magic. Pwiri was a squirrel-like creature. The man gave it to his younger brother for his birthday, and after his death he revived it. There were many disadvantages of reviving someone with black magic, and Raka did not want to talk about them, so he said that every adult can save the life of another once in his life. The elder brother reassured the children he was an ordinary person and also wanted to eat. Aisha and Delkane admitted that they were very afraid that he would become the same as Pwiri. Raka inquired about who saved him. The children replied that it was the evil priestess, the woman who was in his bedroom. Then he wanted to know how exactly she did it. Delkane said that the girl asked him to fill a basin with water and bring it along with a towel. Aisha was in no hurry to talk about what she had done. The older brother asked the girl to tell how it all happened. The girl hesitated, but admitted that the priestess had shared with her a secret that she needed to take with her to the grave. Hearing this, Raka looked at the frying pan again and tried to connect the two things. He couldn't understand what the girl wanted to do. Aisha said that the priestess had to perform her sacred ritual using a frying pan in order to save her older brother. Raka suggested that the girl needed the frying pan to cook food, and then add poison to it and poison the children. But then it was not clear to him who could have sent the killer. On the other hand, the priestess seemed weak to him for a killer. Raka knew that he had many enemies, and perhaps this girl simply hated him for something. Everything seemed very unclear to the man. He discovered an ability in the girl that he had never seen before, and, among other things, many strange things. Raka decided to follow her for some time. Maya woke up after Raka left the room and found his empty bed. She was surprised that there was no one there. Looking at her hands, the girl discovered that they were shrouded in a white glow. She assumed that she died after all, or perhaps died in Maya's body, and was reborn in a new body. The girl went to the mirror and looked into it. There she saw herself in Maya's body, and was glad that she was still alive, and Raka had not killed her. Feeling relieved that everything has remained the same, Maya realizes that she is very hungry, and decides to go in search of food. Maya was very interested to know about what kind of food is prepared in this world. She opens the door of the room and sees Rock in front of her holding a frying pan, which, in her opinion, has become even cleaner. Raka noticed that Maya slept well. The girl smiled and put her hand behind her head, and then, a little embarrassed, greeted him good morning. Looking at the girl, the man said that if you looked at her, no one would have said that something had happened to her. Maya felt guilty towards him and asked for forgiveness for grabbing Rock by the hair and then throwing him to the ground yesterday. Now Raka understood what really happened yesterday. He said that if a person makes a mistake twice, he sends him to the underworld. He then asked her if this was all an apology. Maya looked guiltily at the floor. She no longer knew what she could add to her apology. In any case, the girl could not admit to him that she wanted to hit him with a frying pan. Children entered the room. Aisha wanted to know if they would have soup for breakfast, and if the evil priestess had left, and Delkine was completely dissatisfied with his surroundings and wanted to get home as soon as possible. Wishing Aisha good morning, Maya was pleasantly surprised that the girl reacted calmly to her, but Aisha asked why the priestess was still here, and Maya mentally took her words back. The girl replied that she was going to leave today. Maya pretended to be awkward and added that now she could definitely go about her business. Then she said goodbye and quickly headed out. Maya was glad that she managed to leave them as naturally as possible, but before she could leave the house, Raka called out to the priestess. She was surprised by his address. The man asked the girl if she saw any other clergy here. It looked like he was looking for an excuse for her to stay. Maya hesitated, because she was only in the body of a priestess, and in fact was not a priest either. She replied that there was no one here except her. Raka handed the frying pan to the girl. He asked the girl what she wanted to cook, and since the pan was dirty, he washed it. The girl had a hard time trying to imagine how the main villain in an apron, rolling up his sleeves, could wash a frying pan. The man leaned closer to Maya, making her even more nervous. And he said quietly, if she wanted to poison the children, then this time Raka will pretend that he didn't notice anything, and next time he won't leave it so easily. Raka added that he hoped that the girl understood everything correctly. Maya was a little surprised by this statement. She had no idea of pouring poison into someone to poison them. Leaving the girl alone, Raka invited her to cook food on the stove that was in the hut. Maya accepted the fact that she couldn't leave so easily and agreed to cook something. Maya was a little puzzled that she would have to feed everyone in this house using only 3 ingredients for a dish. The girl went to the kitchen table and examined the basket of vegetables that were intended for cooking. Then she heard people getting ready for breakfast behind her and turned to look. Aisha and Delcane were already sitting at the table. Maya had to prepare such a breakfast that the children could also eat. Otherwise, they would not have spared her. Taking the onion in her hands, Maya began to think carefully about the dish, because she had already been cooking for herself for 6 years. After some time, she brings delicious-smelling fried potatoes with onions and carrots to the dinner table. The children were unhappy with the dish they saw. Delcane looked at the plate with disgust, and Aisha declared that she hated vegetables. Maya kindly explained to Aisha that this food was a little different from what she was usually used to eating, but she should try this dish. The girl was very surprised at how much the children did not want to try these vegetables. She had never in her life heard of anyone not liking fried potatoes. Realizing that Aisha could not be persuaded, Maya asked Delcane to try her dish. The boy excitedly picked up the fork and was almost ready to take a piece. Raka took the plate from Delcane and declared that he would be the first to try the fried potatoes. The man looked at Maya suspiciously and said that it would be better this way. Maya was worried because of Rocky's suspicions, as he himself had seen her preparing food. The girl admitted that she did not add poison, and Raka replied that no one said anything about poison. The man put some potatoes in his mouth and began to chew, while Maya stood and made excuses for simply notifying Raka that there was no poison. Delcane was worried about his older brother's condition and inquired about his well-being. Raka chewed the potatoes a little and replied that this food could be eaten. Maya thought the man liked the dish. Maya was very pleased with what she had prepared. Delcane also joined his brother and began to try breakfast, which he also really liked. The brothers invited Aisha to try the delicious potatoes too, and she apprehensively took a piece with a fork and began to eat it. The girl looked like she liked the food too. After chewing the potatoes, the girl turned to Maya, calling her a priestess. The girl responded and was pleasantly surprised that they stopped calling her evil. Aisha liked the dish so much that she joyfully jumped up from the table and told Maya that she was hiring her to their house. Raka pointed to the priestess, saying that she would go to his house. The girl was at a loss. He ordered her to follow him as he had something to tell her. They went outside and headed behind the house. The man asked if the girl had put medicine in the food. She didn't understand him. That time it was poison. This time it was medicine. How quickly his opinion changed. She replied that she did nothing. Raka emphasized that Aisha does not let people get close to her easily. Maya thought, assuming that the girl simply liked her delicious fried potatoes. The girl answered in surprise that she had no idea about it. The man, suspicious, again asked if she had used some kind of trick, because Aisha would never have made such an offer herself. Maya smiled silently at him, trying to hide her irritation. After all, if he wanted to know the reason, then he should have asked the girl. Her silence seemed even more strange to him. He turned around and began to leave, saying that the priestess would go with them to the mansion. She exclaimed, asking him to wait. Raka turned around questioningly. The girl hesitated. She was very nervous, not knowing what to say. After all, she can interact with other characters in the novel, but she was sure that she definitely shouldn't interact with the antagonist named Raka. A terrible thought flashed through her head. Perhaps he would want to kill her, but she couldn't tell him that. So Maya said that she needed to take care of her younger sisters and brothers. Raka replied that she could take them with her to Aintia's mansion. The girl clapped her hands with happiness. She joyfully asked if it was true. Awkwardly emphasizing how wonderful it is, but she will miss her home very much. The man said that she could go home once a week. Maya agreed doomedly, thinking that this was not at all the same. She began to say the first thing that came to her mind, exclaiming that she had a husband, and he was very jealous. Raka looked at Maya, puzzled, then said, as far as he knew, priestesses could not marry. The girl looked at him pitifully, saying that she was not a priestess. He asked if anyone here could wear such a white outfit, except people from the church. Maya said that this is not true. In fact, she likes such clothes. They are very comfortable. She began to twirl cheerfully, showing how comfortable her lovely dress was. Raka silently looked menacingly at the girl. Suddenly a crash was heard, and she exclaimed why her dress was torn, This couldn't happen. The man said that if she is comfortable, then that is her business, although her taste is rather strange. Maya awkwardly held the torn side of her dress, thinking that she had gone a little overboard with the performance. Raka asked where her husband and younger brothers and sisters were. Putting on a smile, she replied that if you go north from here, their home will be there. He asked how long it would take to get there. The girl guessed about an hour. She thought that an hour was quite a long time. He would have no way to check right now. The man thought about it, saying, as far as he knows, there are only mountains in the north. Maya scratched her head, questioningly saying maybe it was in the west. Raka emphasized that the same applies to the western part. Only in the east there is a village an hour's drive away. The girl joyfully exclaimed that this was true. Her family was in the east. She was just a little lost and did not understand which way the house was. And then the man added, in fact, the village is in the south. So everything she said earlier was a lie. She understood that she was in trouble, and specifically, Raka approached the girl ominously, pressing her against the wall of the house. She wanted to run. He asked where she was going. Maya tried to mentally calm herself and breathe evenly, saying that she would not run away anywhere. And, lowering her eyes, she asked the man to move away. He seriously asked how he could trust a man who lies all the time. Maya exclaimed that she was telling the truth now. It seemed to him that she was still lying. The girl is perplexed why he takes with him someone he doesn't trust at all. She asked what she should do to make him believe. Maya decided to listen to Terida's advice. Although her name is not so honorable, it is worth a try. The priestess asked the man if she could put her name on the line. Raka noticed that he still did not know her name. He asked what her name was. The girl began to say Ma and suddenly froze. Maya thought that if she said her real name, he would definitely think that she was a priestess, so she introduced herself as Maymir. Raka asked if she had a surname. The girl awkwardly looked away, twirling her hair on her finger. She asked if a person couldn't exist without a surname. She doesn't actually know if Maya has a last name. The clergy called her by name. The man asked if she really didn't have a last name or if she just didn't want to tell. The girl said it was true. She doesn't actually know who her parents are. And it was true, because this line was never revealed in the novel. Maya may have a last name, but no one knew her because she's just a minor character who complements the arc of the main character Kynes. And even when she suddenly dies, no one was interested in it because she is a minor character. Hanging her head, the girl thought that perhaps it would be better if she was born from some travelers, so that she would not die as mediocrely as, for example, she did. Seeing Maya's saddened look, the man noticed that it seemed that she had just told the truth. She confirmed his words, thinking that his voice had become calmer. The girl hoped that the black magicians did not have some kind of lie detector. She thought, what if she learned black magic? Perhaps this way she can get rich and start a reference agency. Raka asked what kind of look she had. Maya smiled, asking what was wrong with her look. She was afraid of what she might accidentally say out loud about the referral agency. He began to emit black magic, saying that her eyes had just been half possessed, something he had seen often before. Raka tried to remember where he saw that insidious look. Approaching Maya very close face to face, he emphasized that he had definitely seen him somewhere before. His crazy look scared the girl. She said that it didn't matter, offering to return to their conversation. He asked if she knew his name. The girl said his title and name. And besides, the Duke is good at black magic, but it's better to keep it a secret. After all, everyone will find out about this only after the main character Reina is kidnapped. The man assumed that the twins told her about this. Maya laughed, confirming his words. But, of course, it was a lie, because when they saw her, they began to fuss and shout. Raka looked at the girl appraisingly, emphasizing that she had also done a good job with the children today. Maya giggled, saying that she had her own methods. What she really thought was that she was simply using the lies she had told the twins earlier. The man said it would be nice if she became a nanny for the twins, noticing that their nanny had just recently quit. The girl said that this is not surprising. Raka asked what she meant by this. Realizing her mistake, Maya panicked. She apologized for being lost in thought and asked the Duke to repeat it. An awkward silence fell between them. Then Rakan nevertheless repeated that he wanted to hire the girl as a nanny for Aisha and Delcane. Even though she still seemed just as suspicious to him, but he had never seen anyone get along so well with twins, since even Aisha herself wanted to hire her. But he can ask Shahram to keep an eye on the priestess while she works. Rakan decided that he would do so. Maya thought if she is suspicious, then why doesn't he just let her go? The girl thanked the Duke for his kindness, but in fact, she had no intention of going to their mansion. She believed that if she went to them, she would not have a normal life, because Maya would always worry that she could be killed at any moment. But of course, she could not tell this to Rakan. The man offered 500 kirks. She asked if the Duke really believed that everything was done with money. Rakan was sure of it. Hesitating, Maya said that not all people are like that, and the man offered 700 kirks. The girl exclaimed negatively. Then he offered 800. She was starting to get angry and asked if he thought she would agree, and Rakan raised the fee to 900 kirks. And suddenly Maya fell silent. She thought that with this money she could live peacefully in another country. But she was still tormented by doubts. And then the Duke offered 1,000 kirks. Maya immediately agreed. She was inflamed with a desire to work for the Duke. Considering that on 6,000 kirks, you can live the rest of your life in complete prosperity, and this is only 6 months. So she should have taken this chance. She may even be able to prevent Rocky and the main character from meeting. Then Kynes will not need divine power, and Maya will be able to survive. The Duke called out to the priestess from his thoughts. He mockingly asked if she was the one who said that money would not affect her decision. Maya replied that she did not agree to work for the money. They returned to the house. Raka sat down on a chair and could not stop laughing. Maya exclaimed, demanding that the man stop laughing. He agreed, but didn't stop. He asked the priestess again if 1,000 kirks would be enough for her. She looked away and asked him to promise that he wouldn't kill her. The Duke asked why he needed this. The girl hesitated, saying that in fact she was in danger. Raka indifferently asked from whom. Maya was silent. She thought that, of course, from him and from Emperor Kynes, especially from Rock, who kills all the people he meets on his way. He asked if she was saying that because Aisha threatened to kill her. The priestess denied, although Aisha really threatened her. Raka says everything fits now. That's why she wanted to kill the twins the next day. Maya said there was a misunderstanding. The man said that he understood everything because survival is a basic instinct. Maya felt very embarrassed because she believed that everything was completely wrong. It seemed to her that she was being made the most evil person in this world. The door burst open, and Aisha suddenly rushed into the house, asking what the two of them were talking about for so long. Maya got scared. She jumped away from the door out of fear, and Raka caught her by grabbing her waist. She tightly grabbed his shirt on his chest with her hands and asked for forgiveness for such awkward intimacy. She then tripped and fell to the floor, dragging the Duke with her. The man leaned on her. He was too heavy, and Maya asked if he was okay. There was a strange smell of black magic. Raka came close to her face, and Maya pushed him away, asking what he was doing. The man told her not to push him away. He asked why he felt so good. The girl was trembling with fear. She asked what he was talking about. The Duke pulled her to her feet, putting his arm around her waist, and said that he was talking about her. Delcane entered the house, asking Aisha why she was standing at the door. The girl looked at the adults in shock, and when he saw what was happening, the boy blushed no less than his sister. Delcane asked his sister if this is what adult relationships are. Aisha assumed that it was so. They weren't wasting their time. The priestess awkwardly pushed Raka away from her. The boy exclaimed enthusiastically, "Now they can call the priestess daughter-in-law." Aisha was indignant. It sounded crazy. Delcane asked why she thought that, since it seemed like her brother and sister-in-law had become romantically involved. Aisha protested, saying that being a daughter-in-law is completely different. You have to get married there. The boy said that they could get married, because she already saved his life. Aisha still didn't like her brother's idea. Maya had all her thoughts on Aisha's side. Delcane asked if his sister remembered the book his brother read to them. It said that a person who saved the life of another was actually destined by fate. Maya was interested in this book. The girl exclaimed why they couldn't save her then. Delcane folded his hands on his chest and answered quite seriously, "This is all the will of fate." Aisha covered her ears in anger so as not to hear her brother's nonsense. She screamed that she didn't want to hear him, asking if it was a dog barking there somewhere. While Maya was watching the children quarrel, she did not notice how Raka approached her. The children continued to argue. It seemed to Maya that Raka fell asleep leaning against her. Delcane demanded that Aisha address him with respect, because he was born before her. The girl grabbed him by the collar, claiming that the difference of a minute was completely unimportant. Things were getting close to a fight, and Maya asked the children to stop. They grabbed each other by the hair and began to pull. The priestess again tried to attract attention to herself, but they did not listen to her at all. The girl thought that on one side of her there were two puppies barking at each other, and a large dog was hanging on her. She didn't know what to do. Maya called Rock, and he immediately answered her. He removed his happy face from her shoulder and looked into her eyes. The girl felt as if he was bewitched. Rock's ears and cheeks were flushed as he gazed at Maya. The girl apologized for calling him by name, but she couldn't wake him up any other way. The man invited Maya to continue calling him by name and hugged her again, lowering his head to his shoulder. The girl said that it was necessary to stop the twins' quarrel before it became an accident. Raka replied that this would only strengthen them. Aisha became even more angry, worried about the condition of her hair, and she began to emit black magic. Delcane exclaimed that she started first. She emphasized that her brother doesn't even know how to use black magic. He only knows how to fight. The boy noticed that it doesn't matter because his sister's head is still empty. Maya got nervous. She asked the Duke to look at the children. He agreed, but remained glued to the priestess. Aisha screamed that she would not leave it like this. Delcane turned to his daughter-in-law, exclaiming to her to take care of herself. Suddenly, Raka released her from his embrace, turned around, and used black magic, stopping the little girl's pranks. The girl screamed in pain. Maya fell to the floor. The house was filled with smoke. The priestess noticed that the magic even damaged the floors. Raka addressed the twins. Delcane asked him for forgiveness. Aisha grumbled that he should only apologize for himself. Raka told the girl that she would be punished for using black magic. The girl wanted to object, but the older brother did not let her say a word, saying that he warned her that she could only use black magic if something threatened her life. Aisha exclaimed that she understood this, but Delcane said that Raka would marry a priestess. He looked questioningly at his sister, and the girl blushed and exclaimed even more forcefully, asking when the two of them had become so close and whether her brother was really going to marry her. Maya became nervous. From her endless experience of reading romantic fantasy, one can say that in such situations, villains can lose their temper. The girl jumped up, and standing between Raka and the children, she asked to wait. She was ready to provide an explanation. The man asked what it was for. He was sure the priestess was using some kind of trick on him. Maya looked at him indignantly, because she was the one who pushed him away when he hugged the girl. She exclaimed that she had done no such thing. Raka approached the girl, asking if she wanted to say that she brought him to this state, but did nothing. Maya turned to the children, objecting that because of his absurd speeches, the children might misunderstand everything. The man smiled contentedly, saying that he was telling the truth, which could be misunderstood here. Aisha shuddered, Delcane emphasized, as she saw he was right. The girl still couldn't believe it. He told her to just accept it. As Maya feared, they had already misunderstood everything. The girl was upset. No matter how hard she tried, everything only got worse. She sat down, burying her face in the table. Raka suggested that we talk frankly, since the children had already left. She repeated again that she didn't do anything. He emphasized that it was better for Maya to tell everything now, while she was politely asked. Raising her head, the girl objected that she was telling the truth. She concluded that Raka did not behave this way of his own free will, but looking at him, it was clear that he himself did not understand anything. Maya wondered if it was possible that she too could use black magic, although it is doubtful that a minor character would have such a skill. Raka asked if this meant that he himself went to the priestess for no reason. The girl emphasized that in fact, she is good at keeping secrets, and she can pretend like nothing happened. Raka looked at Maya horribly. His gaze frightened her. She clapped her hands joyfully, saying, and nothing would bind them. The Duke asked if she didn't like him that much. The girl was surprised, suggesting that she had heard, and he repeated his question. The man turned away, exhaling. He told her to forget about it. It seems that he has gone crazy after all. Maya was tensely silent, thinking that he was right, and he suddenly looked at her ominously again. Maya turned away sharply, thinking that she had relaxed too much. She laughed to dispel the awkward atmosphere. Raka ordered her not to laugh as it annoyed him. The girl obediently agreed. Raka threatened that if Maya did not tell what happened, he would come to the mansion and search for information on her. He finds out who she really is. The girl calmly replied that she understood him. In fact, she was very worried that if he found out who she really was, would he send her to the temple. The man approached Maya, leaning over. He asked if she knew what this meant. The girl replied that she had no choice, because he would find out everything anyway. Raka emphasized that if he finds out about this in the mansion, then many will know who she is besides him. Maya tried her best not to show her fear. She asked what was in it for her, and he added that some might not like her dubious personality, and she could be kicked out or killed. The girl recalled the Duke's promise not to kill her. The man said that he might change his mind if others insist on it. Maya clenched her hands into fists. She believed that if she returned to the temple, her efforts would be in vain. She ran away, was going to work as a nanny, dreamed of the future. Was it all in vain? Raka said, of course he doesn't want to kill her, because no one can handle twins like she can. And even so, that the children themselves asked her to become a nanny. Maya suggested just pretending nothing happened. She had hope, and she decisively said that she was ready to become the twins' nanny. She hoped he was serious when he said he wanted to hire her as a nanny. Raka was surprised because they had already agreed that Maya would be their nanny. The girl recalled that she had not yet signed the contract and that he himself believed that she was only a hindrance for him. The man looked away thoughtfully, saying that he had not thought about it. Sitting down at the table, Raka said that he must apologize for being lost in such negative thoughts. He smiled, saying he should have been more patient. Either way, Maya hasn't done anything wrong, so there's no need to find out who she is just yet. He would gradually learn about the priestess as long as she was around. Therefore, she should not refuse to be a nanny. The girl looked at him silently. It seemed to her that the Duke was kind to her. The door of the house opened. Delcane exclaimed that he had arrived. The boy was holding some kind of plant in his hands, saying that he could not find anything. They all dried up, like this one. Maya asked what it was. The Duke replied that she did not need to know. Delcane added, "This is Shakir's flower." Raka looked at him menacingly, and the boy fell silent. The girl asked if the boy really went with Aisha to buy flowers. He replied that he went alone because Aisha went to her room and did not come out. Raka examined the flower, asking if it was possible that the boy had taken a bad look. "Looks like he'll have to go and check." The man stood up from the table and announced that the priestess would go with him. She exclaimed in surprise, mentally asking him to leave her alone. Maya screamed, "No matter what, she won't go anywhere." The Duke inquired about the reasons for her persistence. The girl smiled, saying, "Even if there is a reason, he will still force her to go." Maya thought that she did not have time for some flower hunting. Raka says if she has any reason, he will listen to her. The girl asked not to force her to go if she told. The man agreed. And Maya said firstly her dress was torn, showing the side. She added that she could not go out like that. Raka says it can't be seen if she doesn't raise her hands. The girl embarrassedly said that she was still embarrassed by this look, because no one wears torn clothes. The man thought about it. Maya thought that her persuasion was starting to work. She continued, secondly, she is a real homebody, so Maya does not like to go out. She told about all the reasons, so she emphasized that the Duke should go himself. Raka asked if the priestess was calling these reasons. The girl became nervous, considering them weighty. Delcane, sitting at the table, listened to this heresy. He said, turning to his brother, that he must keep his promise, because it is important to keep your word. He asked his daughter-in-law if he was right, and Maya, tearing up, agreed with him that promises must be kept. She thought that the boy was her only savior in this dark world. He is a real angel. Delcane asked if his brother had forgotten that promises must be kept. Maya did not miss the opportunity to support the boy. Raka knew that he could not find a way to turn the situation to his advantage. Maya stroked the boy on the head, saying that keeping promises is the main rule in life. She asked him not to forget about it. He agreed because it was not difficult. Raka watched their unity nervously. Maya looked contentedly at the man, saying that Delcane should watch the Duke. He would set an example for him. The clearly angry Duke, closing his eyes and holding back his emotions, said that he had gone to get flowers. The girl thought that this 2-to-1 was not in favor of darkness, and this is more the merit of his blood relative. Maya and the boy left the house. They happily waved after the man, saying goodbye to Rakan and wishing him good luck. Maya sat by the window, sighing sadly. She recalled how Rakan threatened her, saying that the girl knew what would happen to her if she ran away in his absence. Delcane called to the priestess, handing her a cup. He offered her a drink. The girl happily thanked him. She was surprised how blood relatives could be so different. The boy awkwardly apologized to his daughter-in-law. He hoped that she could understand him. He became very embarrassed, saying that his brother did not express himself very well, but he is sure that he sincerely loves her with all his heart. Maya blushed. She thought it was time to sort out this misunderstanding. She stood up, saying that she and the Duke had no relationship. The boy was touched, saying, judging by her blush, she also had feelings for her brother. He's a little mean, but he really likes her. Maya thought that everything was completely wrong. Delcane added enthusiastically that he could swear he had never seen his brother look at anyone like that. The girl tried again to explain everything as a misunderstanding, but the boy grabbed her hands, objecting that he had read about it in a book. He exclaimed that the eyes, they could not lie. He said that he understands that his daughter-in-law is angry now, but could she forgive his brother at least once? Delcane looked with such a sweet, pitiful look. The girl understood that it would be extremely difficult to convince him, so she simply replied that she understood him. She thought that perhaps Delcane, on the contrary, would be the hardest. Meanwhile, Raka walked through the forest in search of Shakir's flowers. His search went poorly. Raka found only dried Shakir flowers, and not a single living one. He was upset, thinking that this had never happened before. These flowers belonged to the imperial family, so he had no choice but to steal the flowers. He wanted to look around some more when he suddenly heard voices. Turning around, he saw the imperial knights. One suggested that the other look for flowers instead of working on the temple. They were discussing the interrupted blessing ceremony. Raka realized that the imperial knights were secretly collaborating with the temple, which explained why they had been strangely quiet lately. One of the men noticed that the priests were telling the truth. There really were no flowers. The second suggested that they were looking poorly, ordering them to look more carefully. Raka was hiding behind a tree listening to them. He thought for a moment, deciding to analyze the information he had received. First, the emperor came to the temple for a blessing ceremony, but for some reason, the ceremony was interrupted. Secondly, the imperial family also does not know where Shakir flowers grow. Thirdly, flowers are not growing now. Therefore, he believed that he needed this woman, Mimir, a woman who has abilities similar to the Shakir flower. Raka was pleased that he managed to persuade her to become the twins' nanny. But he was worried about one problem. Why then, when he hugged her, he felt so wonderful. He felt as if he had drunk a decoction with a large concentrate of the Shakir flower. He felt as if all his energy had dried up. Raka lost control of his mind and body. He only wanted to be with her. The man assumed that the girl's touch affected him this way. When it comes to touching, there's only one person that comes to mind for Raka, Reina Adrian. She can put a person to sleep with just one touch. The woman Raka had been looking for a long time. But Mimir is absolutely not like Reina. Be that as it may, the Duke decided that he should never let Mimir go. Therefore, he will now need to buy new clothes for her. It seemed to the man that the priestess was very upset because her dress was torn. Returning to the house, Raka finds the priestess sitting at the table. She had her head on the table and was fast asleep. The man put down his purchases and sat down next to him. Looking at the girl, he thought that she was sleeping well. The Duke was sure, although he did not know who she was, this woman would definitely be useful to him in the future. Delcane entered the house. Raka asked if the priestess had done anything suspicious. The boy replied that she had been sleeping all this time. Then the man asked if Aisha was still sulking. Delcane answered positively, but Aisha suddenly screamed contradictorily, and the door suddenly slammed, which frightened the boy. The boy wondered why the door closed so abruptly. Did his brother close it on purpose in order to protect the priestess in this way? Delcane beamed, believing that his brother loved the priestess after all. Raka was surprised by the boy's reaction. He asked what was wrong with him. Delcane replied, nothing unusual, and he began to leave. His brother warned that they would be leaving tomorrow morning. Yawning demonstratively, Delcane agreed, saying that he would go to his room because he already wanted to sleep so badly. Closing the door behind him, the boy smiled mysteriously. He thought he'd read about it in a book. Lovers should be left alone at the beginning of a relationship. Delcane mentally wished his brother a good time. At the same time, Raka did not understand at all why his brother behaved so unusually. Maya opened her eyes, finding that it was already dawn. She did not know how long she had slept. As she stretches her arms, she discovers a blanket on her, assuming that Delcane covered her. Raka entered the house. Closing the door, He ordered the girl to go into the room. She asked if someone had come to see him and if he was expecting someone. The man replied that he didn't know anyone here. The fact that they had come through the entire forest here, Raka assumed that they were looking for something. And to begin with, the priestess should not leave the room. Maya agreed. She went to the kitchen cabinet, saying that she would take a frying pan just in case. Raka agreed. The girl thought, so what if it looks strange? It was the only self-defense weapon she could trust. Maya entered the room and locked the door. Leaning against it, she stood quietly, clutching a frying pan in her hands. The girl pressed her ear to the door. Judging by the sound of the door opening, she wondered who it could be. The Imperial Knight apologized to the Duke for disturbing him so early. Raka crossed his arms, saying if they were truly sorry, then they would do well to leave here as soon as possible. And since they have everything, he leaves. The knight panicked. He exclaimed that they had one question. He asked if the young master had seen a blonde with blue eyes here. Maya heard their conversation and was very scared. Raka replied that he had not met any girl here. The knights wanted to check this personally. The Duke asked if they planned to search someone else's house without permission. The knights presented him with a document certifying that they were Imperial Knights, in the hope that it would be suitable. The knights entered the house. Maya stood under the door, holding the frying pan tightly. She was shaking all over with fear, thinking that it was just one blow. She couldn't make a mistake. The men opened the door to the room. Raka said that it was better not to go there. This is his brother and sister's room. They are a little wild. Seeing the strangers, the children screamed. Aisha exclaimed who they were to enter their room. Delcane told his sister to grab the knight. Maya wondered if she should try relying on the twins. She quietly walked to the bed and began to straighten the blanket, suggesting that in any case, it was better for her to cover herself with the blanket and hide. While wrapping herself in a blanket, Maya heard Delcane scream. She was very excited. He was the only angel on her side. The boy screamed, ordering the knight to let him go. The knight grabbed Delcane and, trying to hold him, yelled what kind of idiot he was and why he was biting. The knight was very angry. He ordered the children to behave normally, not understanding why they were so naughty. Maya jumped out of the room and hit the knight on the head with all her might with a frying pan, ordering him to take his hands off the boy. The knight fell to the floor and passed out. The girl froze, realizing that she had hit a person. Aisha shouted joyfully that she was the one who hired her. Delcane admired his daughter-in-law's coolness. Next to them lay another knight who was knocked out by the girl. The children could not stop admiring the girl, praising her on how great she was. Raka approached Maya and said that they should leave before they woke up. The girl agreed, and they boarded the carriage. Aisha enthusiastically asked the priestess how she came up with the idea of using the frying pan as a weapon. Delcane added that it was a brilliant idea. Maya awkwardly scratched her cheek, saying that she didn't even know what to say. This was also the first time for her. The children said that they needed to write memoirs about this feat. Raka asked the girl why the Imperial Knights were looking for her. Maya asked in surprise if it was her. The man turned to her, directing a piercing gaze at her. He said, "The knights said they were looking for a blonde with blue eyes." The girl became nervous, answering that it must all be a coincidence. Maya thought it would be better to pretend she didn't know anything. The children were unanimously indignant, exclaiming why their brother was scaring the priestess, since it was she who saved them with the frying pan. Maya was so very happy about their protection. Aisha shouted that the priestess should not marry her brother. She would do more for her, so the girl invited the priestess to become hers. Aisha asked if she just sounded cool. Delcane replied that not at all. He asked if the daughter-in-law had gone crazy. Why should she become Aisha's property? Maya smiled awkwardly as she listened to the children argue. The girl exclaimed that in any case, she was the one who hired the priestess, so she was her. She leaned towards the girl, asking if she was hers. Maya replied that hiring someone does not mean that that person is now the property of the employer. Aisha decisively said that she was hers, having clarified that she is not her brother, but her, and she will never give up what belongs to her. The girl was scared. She had previously thought that Raka was a bright representative of an possessed person, but it turned out that he was not the only one. The man smiled, saying it's good that she doesn't give away what belongs to her, but she must look at the enemy and then act. Raka emphasized that technically, only he can hire people. Aisha recalled that it was she who suggested hiring a priestess. The man said that in this case, she should try not to lose her. There was a tense atmosphere in the carriage. Maya really wanted to jump out of it. The carriage arrived at the estate. Raka entered the office, thinking that the girl was wanted by the imperial family itself. He suggested that it was all because of her characteristics, similar to the effect of the shakir flower. Approaching the table, he began to arrange the papers, preparing a contract for the priestess. Raka was very serious. He couldn't lose her, especially now when all Shakir's flowers had withered. The Duke took out a pen and began to write. The door opened, and Shira Miragi, Raki's assistant, flew into the office. He awkwardly asked to be forgiven for being late. The Duke noticed that Shiram had become very relaxed in his absence. The man exclaimed that this was not so. He tried to do everything correctly. Raka asked if there was news related to the imperial family. The assistant hesitated, saying that there was no such thing. But since yesterday, there have been rumors that a daughter of a god appeared in the temple of Teradus. I think her name is Maya. Raka folded his arms and asked if she had any powers. Shiram replied that they did not have such information and would need to conduct an investigation to find out. The Duke ordered his assistant to take care of this, and also to find out everything about the woman he brought to the mansion, only secretly from everyone. Shiram agreed plaintively and moved towards the door, but Raka called out to him, ordering him to tell that woman to come to him. Looking at the document, the Duke believed that this should be enough to conclude the contract. He remembered an important detail. Raka added a payment of 1,500 kirks to the contract, and the priestess was obliged to sleep with him every night. Maya held the contract in her hands and couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the payment. She held the document up, examining it in the light, and wondering if the Duke knew who she really was. Would he then throw money around like that? After waiting for a long time, the man asked if she thought the payment was low. Maya denied his words. After asking the Duke why he decided to give her such a salary, smiling, he asked if she had read all the terms of the contract. Maya began to carefully read the conditions. Housing and food are provided. She was also pleased with the presence of a clause prohibiting killing her in payment in the amount of 1,500 kirks. And suddenly, she froze, then asked what the last point meant. Raka made it clear that as it is written, so must be understood. The girl clarified whether they would spend the night in the same bedroom. It scared her that this had to happen every night. The Duke jumped up and went to Maya to pick up the contract, saying that he forgot to add something else. The girl turned away in panic, clutching the document to herself and asking the Duke to wait. She emphasized that the Duke hired her as a nanny for the twins, not for him. Raka stopped, replying that he understood that. Maya asked him if he was sure of this. After all, he must understand that the last point is different from what they talked about earlier. The girl looked intently at the Duke, waiting for an answer. The man hesitated. After thinking a little, he asked what if he said that he really needed her. Maya objected, because she could not do anything for him. Raka emphasized that there was something she could do. The girl panicked, not understanding what he meant. She blushed, thinking, this is not what first comes to her mind. Does the Duke really want her to serve him at night? Raka had never seemed like such a character to her. The girl screamed, flatly refusing to serve the Duke at night. Raka hesitated, clarifying the meaning of the word serve in her sentence. Maya asked if this is not so, then what is the reason? The man replied that he wanted to add something, but she herself did not give it to him. In a trembling voice, she clarified what exactly he wanted to write. Raka replied that he wanted to write in this paragraph, "We will only hold hands." The girl thought, holding hands eventually turns into hugs and kisses, and in the end, everything goes to the same outcome. Maya replied that now she will not wash herself before bed and will wash her hair once a week. Raka first asked what this meant, then thoughtfully replied that he would take it into account. The girl was angry with his answer. She was interested in what he was going to take into account. Maya exclaimed that she didn't want to tell him this, but she was actually having trouble sleeping. Beats in his sleep, speaks, snores, and grinds his teeth. And she happily emphasized that she also drools in her sleep. Raka looked at the priestess silently. She believed that now he would definitely cancel the last point. After all the things she named seemed terrible to her. Raka said that this is all very serious. Maya happily suggested that in that case she would not bother the Duke. Therefore, it is better to cancel the last point. The man continued that nothing could be changed. The girl's hands trembled. She exclaimed, "Why not? Raka replied that he needed the ability she was hiding, an ability that allows her to immobilize an opponent. At this moment, the person relaxes and falls into sleep. The girl assumed that he knew that she was Maya, but she could not return to the temple. Maya agreed on one condition. If the Duke breaks the just hold hands rule, then this clause is automatically cancelled. Raka assured the girl that there would be no contact between them other than holding hands. She should not worry. He asked if she agreed now. The priestess placed the contract on the Duke's desk, asking him to add one more thing. He must hide her, and no matter what, not send her back to the temple. Maya believed that she had to protect herself as much as possible, so she asked if Raka could add this clause. The man agreed if she really needed it. The girl enthusiastically asked the Duke to quickly write it down. Raka asked if he could now sign this contract. Maya agreed. She picked up the contract, thinking that she needed to sign it quickly before the Duke changed his mind, and she gave it back to the Duke. Looking at her signature, the man asked if her name was Mimir. The girl replied that her real name was Maya. Raka asked her again, then looked strangely at the signature. He asked the girl if she was Maya from the Temple of Teritus. The priestess hesitated. She replied that she had to go, and ran out of the office. Maya walked along the corridor excitedly, convincing herself that everything would be okay. And who knows, maybe she was lucky. Walking into the room, she breathed a sigh of relief. Now she didn't have to worry about Raka finding out about her true identity. The girl thought it turns out that her ability worked on Raka, but she was interested in why she was completely fine. Apparently, this ability is completely different from the blessing effect. Perhaps she is not using her ability, but simply passing it on. Looking at her hands, Maya wondered why Raka needed her ability. The screams of children calling for the priestess were heard. Maya turned around, not understanding where the sound was coming from. The children shouted joyfully that they were here, at the fence of her balcony, and invited her to go play with them. Delcane asked if his daughter-in-law had finished talking to their brother. Maya was surprised by their appearance. Looking out onto the balcony, the girl saw that the children were hanging on the railing. She emphasized that it was dangerous to hang like that and asked them to move away so she could climb over to them. Going down to the twins, the girl asked what they were doing here. The children hesitated. Then Delcane exclaimed that Aisha said that she did not want to train and ran away. Aisha angrily asked her brother why he was telling this. After all, she asked him to keep it a secret. Maya concluded that they were messing around, but she understood them. When she was younger and did not want to go to school, she deliberately chose a different path. The priestess said thoughtfully that there was nothing wrong with that. The children fell silent abruptly, looking at her in surprise. Aisha enthusiastically said that she really liked the priestess. After all, she is good at understanding people. Delcane laughed, noting that their brother also fell for his daughter-in-law's charm. Aisha reminded her brother that he could not call the priestess daughter-in-law. Delcane objected. He believed that they should get used to the fact that their brother and sister-in-law were getting married. The girl was sure that this would not happen. Maya quietly hoped that the children would calm down. Aisha asked who the priestess liked better, her or her brother. The girl hesitated, because she didn't like both of them. Delcane asked his sister why she was asking such questions, because the answer was so obvious. He assured her that his daughter-in-law liked her brother, and I was sure that my sister herself understood this. Aisha denied everything. The boy said that if his daughter-in-law liked her more, she would not hesitate. Aisha was angry at first, but then, apparently realizing the whole truth, she became very upset. Delcane joyfully took his daughter-in-law by the hand and asked if it would be better for them to play without his sister. He offered to show the girl the mansion. Aisha objected. Grabbing the priestess's other hand, she exclaimed that she knew the mansion better than Delcane, and she should come with her. The girl suddenly blushed and froze. Maya got nervous and called her. Aisha began to shake and asked what the priestess had done to her. The girl didn't understand what she was talking about, answering that she didn't do anything. Aisha exclaimed, accusing the priestess of lying. Now Maya was shaking. She smiled silently, thinking whether it would be better for the girl to tell her what was wrong. Delcane asked his sister what happened. The girl replied that the priestess did something strange to her. She felt weak, and her heart began to pound. After hesitating a little, she added that she also smelled a pleasant smell. It was such a pleasant feeling that Aisha thought she would lose her mind. An awkward silence fell between them. Maya suggested that it was similar to what happened to Raka. Was she really using Maya's ability? The girl asked if Aisha could hold her hand again. The girl categorically refused. Maya looked at Delcane. He was fine. She was tormented by the question why this ability only works on Aisha and Raka. She asked if the boy felt as strange as Aisha. He was irritably surprised and asked his daughter-in-law if she really believed his sister. He stressed that Aisha just wants to look good in front of her. The twins gave each other a withering look. Maya thought that their relationship was deteriorating because of her. She asked Delcane to come closer to her. The priestess leaned over, saying that she thought Aisha was telling the truth. The boy incredulously asked why she thought that. Maya hesitated, because it was the same with Raka when he hugged her, but if she says that, it will only get worse. The girl replied that his sister was not the type to lie. Delcane agreed, and Maya asked him to console Aisha. Aisha intervened in the conversation, grumbling about what they were talking about without her. The boy angrily ordered her to wait. He displeasedly asked his daughter-in-law if she wanted Aisha to come with them. Maya replied, "The more there are, the more fun they will have." Delcane agreed. The girl patted him on the head, telling him how good he was. The boy went to his sister. He said if Aisha likes her daughter-in-law, she shouldn't behave like that. The girl exclaimed that she really felt a very strange sensation. Maya was worried. It didn't look like Delcane was calming Aisha down. The boy asked if his daughter-in-law had done anything bad for Aisha. Thinking, she replied that it was a pleasant feeling. And then Delcane said that if Aisha behaves like this, then her daughter-in-law will definitely marry her brother. The girl exclaimed that this would not happen. She would never allow her brother to marry a priestess. The boy seriously said that she should stop whining if she doesn't want to lose her daughter-in-law. Aisha approached Maya, guiltily saying that she was too sentimental. It was all because the priestess did something to her. The girl was surprised to see another side of Aisha that she had no idea existed. Maya asked if the girl would give her a tour of the mansion because she now wanted to look around, and then her legs were already starting to hurt. Aisha agreed excitedly. She didn't want the priestess's legs to hurt. Maya pointed her finger at random, suggesting they start on that side. Delcane said that they should not go there. If they go that way, they will all be caught. The girl became nervous, but this did not surprise her at all, because she considered herself a master of bad luck. Aisha tugged at the priestess's sleeve, awkwardly asking if they could hold hands, or take at least one finger of the priestess. The girl seemed very sweet at that moment. Maya had never seen her like this. She thought that her ability had such an effect on Aisha, and was worried if everything would be fine if they did this. She decided to try it and extended her finger to the girl. Aisha took hold of him and began to say that it was better now compared to last time. Maya suggested that if the contact is not very close, her ability does not work as strongly. Aisha plaintively asked the priestess if she could call her Nanny. The girl looked cuter than before, and Maya wondered if the effect had really diminished. After examining the mansion, the girl went to her room, and out of fatigue, she lay down in bed. Maya thought how big this mansion was. Because of this, the journey back was a little delayed, but she was glad that the twins got along with her. They were a little crazy, but she didn't really care anymore. There was also a salary of 1,500 kirks. This job seemed like a fairy tale to Maya. 6,000 kirks would be enough for her, so she planned to work for 4 months and leave. The girl began to joyfully swing on the bed. Suddenly, she heard an unusual noise from under the bed and got scared. She crept to the edge and looked underneath, seeing only a shadow and 2 glowing eyes. Maya screamed, and someone from under the bed yelled at her to be quiet. The door to the girl's room suddenly opened, and an excited mystic knight stood in it, interested in what had happened. The girl laughed awkwardly, saying that she just almost fell out of bed. The man asked the mist to be careful. The knight left, and Maya looked down. A creature crawled out from under the bed. The girl asked if it was a black pig. The animal was indignant, raising its paws. It replied that it was a raccoon. Maya asked why Teritus was here in this form. God replied that he wanted to be a nice creature this time and asked Maya what she thought about it. The girl noticed that it was cute, but he smelled terrible. Teritus became depressed, saying that he thought Maya would like this cute appearance, but she took it and offended him. The girl emphasized that the fact that he is dirty will not go away. She asked what brought him here. Teritus replied that he came here to talk about her ability. Maya exclaimed joyfully, saying how wonderful it was. The girl couldn't believe how she could forget that Teritus knew everything about Maya's abilities. She asked him to tell everything. Teritus said the most important thing he wanted to tell her, and he fell silent. After an awkward pause, he began to say that the floor was hard, suggesting that we talk on the bed. As soon as he put his paws on her, Maya began to push the raccoon, shouting that this would not happen. Without calculating its strength, the raccoon flew to another part of the room. Maya excitedly picked up the raccoon, asking him to excuse her and asking if he was okay. Tertius sadly replied that he was fine. Tears appeared in his eyes, and God added that in the future he would no longer appear in this guise. Maya rubbed herself against the raccoon and plaintively asked for forgiveness. She was just angry. Tertius was indignant, saying who else should be angry with whom. The girl replied that this was true, but the merciful Tertius did not know what anger was. God noticed that Maya was tongue-tied. Maya was surprised that Tertius calmed down earlier than she thought. God suggested returning to the beginning of the conversation. He asked if Maya had been experiencing any strange feelings lately. The girl confirmed this. Tertius began to explain everything to Maya. This happened because she did not give a blessing. Maya's ability is a Tertius-enhanced version of Shakir's flower power. The girl did not even imagine that her abilities were connected with the Shakir flower. She asked what this had to do with the blessing. God replied that the Shakir flower in moderation acts as a sedative, but in excess it has a stimulating effect. Maya asked what stimulating meant. Tertius replied, simply put, it affects others as if someone drank a love potion. The girl asked again, because she didn't understand anything. God continued, because Maya was blessed, her powers awakened, and its ability manifests itself only upon contact with someone. The girl exclaimed why he was only talking about this now. Tertius emphasized that last time they had to disperse quickly, but he came as soon as he found out that Maya had agreed to spend the night with the Duke. The girl insisted that this was why he should have told her about it earlier. If she had known about this, she would not have accepted Rocky's conditions. God said if Maya wants to get rid of her ability, she can give a blessing. Maya grabbed the raccoon by the scruff of the neck, asking him to repeat what he just said. The animal trembled. Tertius screamed, demanding that the girl let him go, because this was blasphemy. Maya continued to hold God by the fur. She asked if there was any other way. And if there is, he better tell him about it. Tertius plaintively asked if Maya would let him go if he spoke. The girl agreed. Having lowered the animal to the floor, the god began to talk about the existence of sacred relics similar to his aura. With their help, you can block the ability. If you touch the relic, it will have a stabilizing effect. Maya asked if God had brought a sacred relic for her sake. He replied that holy objects are not created for such a purpose. Maya flared with anger, and Tertius corrected himself, saying, since he was partly to blame for this, he would give her something. In exchange, if she did use the relic, she would have to help him a little. The girl thought that the main thing for her was to hold out for 4 months, so she happily agreed. Tertius promised to bring it soon, but for now he said goodbye to Maya. But Maya delayed him, asking if her body was suffering due to the use of the ability. He explained that this problem would only arise when she gave the blessing. She also wondered if her ability might not work on someone. Tertius replied that for an ordinary person, it should not act, because the Shakir flower only affects those who has special abilities. For example, super strength, holy or magical power. Maya realized that Delcane's ability did not work because he was not a black magician. Tertius left, and Maya lay on the bed, looking at her hands and processing all the information she had heard. She believed that this was the difference between the main character and the supporting character. After all, Reina can simply make a person fall asleep, while Maya cannot control her powers at all. The girl was so happy to earn 6,000 Kirks, but now she only felt annoyance. Maya is very tired, more mentally than physically. She decided that she would rather try to change something. Instead of just wondering why she needs all this, the girl mentally encouraged herself. She needed to come up with something quickly, because from tomorrow, Maya will spend the night with Raka. And she fell asleep. The girl was woken up by some unfamiliar female voice. Opening her eyes, she was startled to find a maid in the room. She introduced herself. The maid's name is Rita. She works in the East Wing. Maya asked what brought her here. Rita notified Miss that the Duke was calling her. The girl asked what time it was now. The maid replied that it was past midnight. The girl thought that, according to the contract, she would start work tomorrow, but apparently she should start work now, because it had already struck 12 at night. Maya considered her boss to be evil. The maid asked Miss how she was feeling. The girl asked if the maid could tell him that she was sleeping. She refused, miss, because the Duke's order comes first. The priestess was upset. Is there really no one in the Aintia mansion who could be on her side? Getting out of bed, the girl put on her slippers, telling the maid to take her to the Duke. She felt that now there was no other choice but to face the problem head on. The maid called out to the nanny, saying that first she should change her clothes. Only then they would go to the Duke. Maya turned around, seeing a cute nightgown. Rita enthusiastically announced that she had prepared clothes especially for her. The girl was confused, wondering if she needed it. She said that the Duke was not calling her for this reason. The maid giggled, blushing. She said that she shouldn't be embarrassed in front of her. Maya wondered if the Duke had told her that she didn't have to shower before the meeting. The maid remembered the Duke saying that Maya didn't need to bathe, and it shouldn't affect her sleep in any way. But she told the nanny that he told the servants to pay special attention to her. It's her first day, so of course she's nervous. And after this instruction, Rita realized that she, as a servant of Duke Aintia, had a very responsible task ahead of her. And Maya thought that no matter what she said, she would not be able to correct this misunderstanding. The girl arrived at the Duke's room. The man invited her to enter, but she did not dare to do so. Maya was very embarrassed and had to cover her nightgown with a robe. Maya was very worried about what Tiritis was saying. In moderation, the ability acts as a sedative, but in excess, it has a stimulating effect. She believed that until God brought her a sacred relic, she should try to avoid contact as much as possible. Raka noticed the girl's sad look and asked if there was any problem. The girl answered negatively. The Duke sat down on the bed, looking at Maya. He suggested that if there were no problems, then why don't she take off her robe and lie down? Maya excitedly asked why she should take off her robe. Raka guessed that she was hot. The girl began to deny. She was not hot at all in this warm robe. She really didn't want Raka to see her in those clothes. Maya told him no touching, and she came dressed like that, as if hinting at something else. The man seriously asked if she was hiding something under her robe. In fact, Maya is afraid to even think about something like this, let alone do it. She laughed, saying that she had no need to do that, and sat down next to him. Raka looked at the girl suspiciously and said, given her behavior earlier, this is a completely possible option. Maya embarrassedly emphasized that he himself understood that she simply had no other choice. She accepted her mistakes. The Duke smiled, saying that this was good, because she who is called God's daughter should not act out of malice. It sounded like Maya was still to blame for something, and she asked for forgiveness. Raka says she doesn't need to apologize. He doesn't know why the priestess decided to run away from the temple, but if he were in her situation, he would also try to hide it. Maya thought that the Duke understood her and suggested that he was not so bad at all. And Raka asked what was this stupid expression on his face. Maya mentally took back her words. The girl touched her face with her palms, exclaiming that she did not have a stupid expression on her face. Raka laughed. He was glad that Maya had finally relaxed. He noticed that it would be inconvenient to sleep with a motionless tree and went to bed. Maya sheepishly asked if this really made him feel uncomfortable. Raka said if she's experiencing discomfort, then he will be experiencing it too. Besides, they need to get something from each other. They need each other. Maya agreed with the Duke, and he asked if she could lie down already. The girl hesitated, asking if they had to sleep together tonight. Raka sat down, asking what was the problem this time. The girl asked if he could give her 2 days. She hoped that this time would be enough for Tiritis. Maya added that in 2 days she would sleep with him, as she promised. Raka was starting to get angry. He asked if Maya knew that this was a violation of the contract. She said she knew, but she hadn't been paid yet anyway. The rule in the contract is, if Party B violates the agreement, it must compensate the amount that is a multiple of 3 that Party A paid. Maya went to the door. Raka called out to her. He noticed that she was like a loach, always wanting to run away somewhere. He asked if he already needed her right now. He would still ask to give her 2 days. Raka was pressing Maya to the door. Up close, he looked very tired. She was worried about how long he had not slept properly. The man demanded an answer. Maya replied that everything is correct. She insists on her own. He walked away sadly. Raka could not understand why she was hesitating. And then he grabbed Maya's hand by force, and she was unable to pull her hand away. And suddenly, Raka became soft and blushed. And I was glad for Maya more than ever. The girl abruptly pushed the man away. Raka grabbed his head, saying that this is madness. Even such the smallest contact is driving him crazy. Maya asked if he really knew about this. The man sat down on the bed, answering that yes, he knew. The more touches, the more difficult it is to control his mind. But he assumed they could at least hold hands. Raka allowed Maya to return to her place. She hesitated, and he suggested that she hurry before he changed his mind. Maya didn't feel very well. She wondered if it was because she didn't stay the night with Raka. She was worried about why it had to be her. This means that Raka, like Emperor Kynes, cannot sleep without the Shakir flower. If Maya had known that everything would turn out like this, she would have read the book more carefully, because she missed what was connected with Raka. The Duke lay in bed, thinking about what had happened. He could not believe that it all happened in a second, after he simply touched his palm. But he realized something for himself. The emotion he feels towards Maya is desire. He didn't feel it at first, but Raka seemed to have lost his mind because he couldn't sleep properly. The Duke pressed his hands to his face in frustration. There was a knock on the door. The man was surprised if it was Maya who had returned. Aisha entered the room. Rubbing her eyes, she said she couldn't sleep and had a headache. Raka asked if Delcane was sleeping. The girl replied that she was the only one who couldn't sleep. She walked up to her brother and hugged him. He asked if she tried to do anything to sleep. Aisha replied quite seriously that, of course, she counted up to 100 sheep. Raka patted his sister on the head. He thought it was because she used black magic. That's why he was against Aisha learning and using black magic. The use of black magic was designed in such a way that as the body weakened, black magic began to grow, which consequently led to increased anxiety and fear. Raka was very worried about his younger sister and asked her not to use black magic anymore. Aisha made it clear that she would think about it, and the man called her stubborn. He didn't want either of the twins to be unhappy, but he couldn't stop the Duke and Duchess's harsh parenting methods. They believed that no one should see any weakness of Aintius. Black magic was inherent in their family. The Duke and Duchess told the children to kill what was most dear to them, because the ability to wield black magic was no stranger to pain. Therefore, as soon as Raka came of age, he used forbidden black magic to drive out the Duke and Duchess. Aisha hugged her older brother tightly, and he mentally blamed himself for the fact that if he had known earlier about the disadvantages of black magic, he would not have made these children suffer. The girl looked at Rock and asked him why he is so serious now, and whether this is due to the fact that Aisha is like him. The man smiled back and said that the girl was not inferior to anyone in her stubbornness. Aisha raised her head up and stated that Shahram always told her that she was as stubborn as the Duke. Raka was distrustful of what Shahram said about the girl, but she continued to insist that he constantly reproached her for this. At this point, Raka suggested putting all jokes aside and putting Aisha to bed. She agreed and happily climbed under the blanket and began to close her eyes, as her brother told her to do. Aisha felt that her headache suddenly stopped hurting, although usually she continued to do so until the morning. Raka suggested that the girl should quickly fall asleep before the headache returned. There was a pleasant smell in Raka's room, which Aisha smelled and told her brother that she had already heard this pleasant, relaxing aroma somewhere. The man was surprised by this and did not know how to explain this. The girl suddenly jumped up and attacked her brother with questions. She accused Rock of sleeping with Maya the night before. The next morning came. Maya got up early. She felt great. The girl sat in a chair and enjoyed breakfast. For her, nothing could compare with a morning cup of tea. The maid entered the girl's room. She reported with alarm that Miss Aisha had disappeared somewhere. Maya was very shocked by this news that she even spat out her tea. Wiping her face with her hand, Maya asked the maid to explain what she had said. The maid explained that she passed by the girl's room and saw it empty. Maya couldn't believe that this could happen on her first day as a nanny. She was afraid that the Duke would find out about this. The maid said that she did not report anything to him about this. The maid was also worried about what the Duke's reaction would be. She told the girl that Miss Aisha always disappeared on the day of the etiquette lesson. It seems that everything was much more serious than Maya thought. The maid looked very scared, because they had never managed to find the girl before. Because of this, the previous nanny had a very difficult time. Maya smiled and tried to calm the maid. The girl realized that Aisha liked to declare war in the morning. Going out onto the balcony, Maya began to look for Delcane. The maid said that the boy was also looking for Aisha. Then the girl, hearing this, also decided to go in search of the girl. In the yard, Maya saw Delcane, who was burying an animal that looked like a squirrel. The girl realized that now was not the right moment to distract him. Aisha rushed along the corridors of the castle. The maid tried to call her, but the girl passed by. She was heading straight to Maya. Aisha saw the girl and directly asked if she slept with her brother. Maya was greatly stunned by the girl's question and did not immediately understand what she was talking about. The girl responded by saying that she did not sleep with him. Aisha demanded that Maya tell her the truth. The girl tried to convince her that she really did not sleep with Raka. Aisha pointed her finger at the maid and demanded to know the reason for her embarrassment. The girl was very angry with the nanny. She did not expect that Maya would be able to do this to her and accused the girl of daring to spend the night with her brother before spending the night with her. Maya explained to Aisha that Rita was embarrassed for another reason, but the girl believed that she was being taken for a fool because the maid was embarrassed because she knew that Maya slept with Raka. Considering this situation a misunderstanding, the nanny offered to spend the night with Asha if the Duke was not against it. The girl immediately agreed and promised to make sure that the Duke gave permission. The maid immediately played along with Aisha. She told Maya that looking at Miss Aisha, she would have no choice but to trust her. At this moment, the girl proudly raised her head. Maya agreed with the maid and added that she could not help but believe her. The maid showed the nanny a gesture demanding to show the girl the maximum sincerity of the girl's feelings. The door to their room opened, and Shahram appeared on the threshold. He wanted to know what Miss Aisha was still doing here. The man told the girl that an etiquette lesson would start soon if he didn't get it wrong. Aisha arrogantly answered him that he was still mistaken. Shahram threatened to tell the Duke about this. The girl called Shahram a bore. The man was offended by her words and asked not to mock him, and in response, he again heard the word bore addressed to him. Aisha herself left the room, slamming the door. Maya stood and thought that the girl was a real hooligan and behaved like that not only with her. The nanny expressed her sympathy and understanding to the man. He thanked Maya and remembered that because of Miss Aisha, he completely forgot to introduce himself. The man identified himself as Shahram Iragi, assistant to Duke Aintia. After the man finished speaking, Maya began bursting with laughter from the inside because Aisha had so easily come up with a nickname for him. Shahram explained to the girl that when the young master and miss were in class, she could either relax or go with them. He also asked Maya to ensure that the children did not miss classes. He told the girl that she would need to ensure that nothing happened to the children. Shahram was not sure that he himself asked her to do this. The man also added that judging by the fact that the miss was reaching out to the nanny, the girl should succeed. Maya thanked him for his words of support, although she was not sure that everything would work out for her. Shahram then suggested that she go see the young master and Mrs. Rooms. The man took her around the palace and explained that the children lived in the western annex. He also showed her the dining room. The girl noticed that this was the same direction where the Duke's room was located. Shahram confirmed her guesses and said that the young master and Mrs. Room was right down the corridor. Maya tried to remember the way to their rooms, and Shahram led her further and told her that the main building was intended primarily for holding large business meetings or receiving guests. Shahram led the girl to the children's room. Maya thanked the man for this, but in response, he asked for forgiveness for not showing her the room earlier. The girl noticed that he could speak beautifully. Smiling sweetly, Maya thought that she was glad to see such a kind person in a long time. The more she looked at him, the more he seemed good and right to her. At this time, the doors of the room opened, and a woman in a green dress quickly walked out towards them. Seeing Shahram and Maya, she hurried to find out who it was. At this time, the nanny and the Duke's assistant stood with their mouths open in surprise. The woman was outraged by their appearance and wanted to know who decided to unceremoniously block her path. Shahram noticed that the lesson was already over. After this, he introduced Countess Tights to a new nanny. The woman looked at the girl indifferently, without greeting her in any way. Maya bowed to the woman and politely said that she was pleased to meet you. Countess Tights walked past them further down the corridor and only responded with a dismissive sign that she had heard the girl. The woman expressed her dissatisfaction with the manners of the new nanny and was rude to her, telling the girl that by looking at her, anyone could say that she was a slave or a savage. The girl was very surprised by this behavior of Countess Tights and did not want to be treated like that. She decided to ignore the woman in response and just smile sweetly. Shahram stood up for Maya. He explained to the Countess that she had misunderstood everything and the nanny was not a slave. Countess Tites grinned and continued to stand her ground. The woman was indignant and asked Shiram to explain to her where the nanny was from. The man hesitated and could not answer such a question. Maya understood that Shiram would not be able to answer her because Raka was the only one who knew who she was. The countess began to talk about how she heard that a girl had recently been ransomed from the slave market. The man convinced Countess Tites that the girl had definitely not come to them from the market. The woman didn't believe it and wanted to know the reason why they were hiding the nanny's origin. She could not understand the reason that the girl agreed to become a nanny. Realizing that this cannot continue like this, Maya intends to send the countess home as soon as possible. The girl kindly hints to her that the countess is in a hurry and wants to see her next time. Countess Tites expresses doubt as to whether there will be a next time. She admitted to the girl that she would be very sorry that they would never have the chance to see each other again. After her words, the countess said that it was a joke. The girl couldn't stand it and laughed. She told the woman that it was funny for her to watch her puzzle over the girl's origins. Maya explained to Countess Tites that she was also joking because she thought the countess liked jokes, but it looked like she was wrong about that. Became terribly angry with the girl when she heard this. The countess raised her hand to hit the girl. The children came out of the room and saw everything that was happening. They were outraged by the behavior of Countess Tites and wanted to know what was going on here. Aisha pointed her finger at the woman and accused her of wanting to hit the nanny. The countess, seeing the children, immediately came to her senses and began to laugh it off and deny her intention to beat Maya. Countess Tites hugged the nanny and grinned. She justified herself by saying that she just wanted to say hello and wish the girl all the best. The children did not believe the woman. Delcane began accusing her of hitting Maya on the shoulder, and Aisha repeated it after him. The countess did not admit what she had done. She did not know what to do. Raka appeared at the end of the corridor. He went to meet them. He heard about what was happening and hurried to find out who hit whom. The children were delighted to see their brother and began waving their hands at him. Delcane shouted to the Duke that his appearance was very timely. Aisha and Delcane hastened to tell Raka what the woman had done to the nanny. They wanted not to leave this unpunished. Hearing their words, the countess told the Duke that there had been a misunderstanding. The woman pretended to be nice and greeted the Duke. She asked Rock for forgiveness for all this noise and stated that she had never even laid a finger on anyone in her life. From her words, it looked like the twins were lying. The countess began to talk about how the children were late for class today, and she scolded them for it, and now they are taking revenge on her. Aisha and Delcane were beside themselves with such a blatant lie and asked their brother not to believe her. Maya saw how the children wanted to stand up for her and took all the damage upon themselves. She realized that she couldn't just look at it like that. The girl stood up for the children and admitted that Countess Tites tried to hit her. Maya spoke about how they accidentally collided, and the woman rashly called her a slave. The woman began to defend herself and pretend that she had never done this. The nanny asked Shiram to confirm her words. Shiram put his hand on his heart and confirmed that what Maya and the twins said was true. The countess tried to justify herself one last time, but Raka told her to stop. Having understood the situation, the Duke of Raka sided with the twins. Delcane smiled and suggested to his elder brother that he kill Countess Tites. The man smiled back and asked if there was a reason to kill her. The children responded that the woman insulted her daughter-in-law and accused them of lying. Raka touched his chin and said that since the countess's actions were aimed at members of the Aintia family, it means that she encroached on the Duke himself and should receive punishment. Aisha happily offered to grind the woman into powder. She believed that then they would no longer need to go to class. Maya thought that Raka and the children were really going to kill the countess and rushed to the Duke. She grabbed his hands with her own and tried to stop him. Holding on to the Duke, the girl caught herself thinking that she herself had not noticed how she touched him. Maya was a little scared and expected him to change now, but she had nowhere to retreat. Maya was afraid to imagine how far Raka could go. The girl gathered her courage and asked the Duke not to kill Countess Tites. Raka looked at the nanny in surprise and asked the reason for her request. Maya explained that she had no desire to watch a person being turned into powder before her eyes. The man suggested turning the countess into dust or completely making her dissolve. The nanny explained that these methods were even worse. His next option was to undermine Countess Tites, but Maya again begged the Duke not to do this. Maya thought that Raka could easily write a book on 100 ways to kill a person. Raka confessed to the girl that he could not allow anyone to touch his person. He especially couldn't allow this to happen if that person was Maya. The girl looked at him, and it seemed to her that the more she touched him, the stronger his reaction. Maya warned the Duke that he could face consequences. The man tried to calm the girl down, but she insisted that she couldn't stop worrying, and she asked him not to do anything that would make him worse. Hearing the girl's words, Raka realized that she was worried about her well-being. Maya confirmed his guess, and then he touched her face and called her noble and good-natured. The Duke admitted that he did not immediately understand the reason for her zeal to protect the Countess from death, and he asked to let him make sure that the girl did this because she was worried about him. Raka smiled welcomingly at the girl and declared that he would not kill the Countess. Maya asked me to promise her, to keep my word. The girl let go of the Duke's hands. She was interested to know what his reaction would be now. A pleasant light emanated from Rock. He examined his hand and tried to understand his sensations. Delcane called his daughter-in-law. He wanted to know if she had finished her conversation with his elder brother. Maya turned around and saw how the boy held Aisha's mouth with his hands. Now it was clear why the girl was silent. Aisha wanted to kill the Countess, but Raka was against it and invited everyone to eat. The girl said that they would eat and then kill the woman. Having stopped arguing, they went to the dining room. There was a large variety of goodies on the table. Maya was very excited about such an abundance of food. Raka noticed that the girl's mouth was open and reprimanded her. She came to her senses because she hadn't noticed how drool started flowing and wiped her mouth with her sleeve. Delcane saw that Aisha was eating only meat again, although she had previously eaten fried potatoes that Maya had prepared, and told the girl about it. Aisha said that then the taste of the potatoes cooked by Maya was special, but in general she believed that all vegetables tasted the same. After listening to his sister, Delcane handed her a plate of potatoes. The boy invited Aisha to try this dish and explained that it was made from the same ingredients that his daughter-in-law used when preparing it last time. Having tried a piece, the girl expressed her dissatisfaction with this dish and spat it back into the plate with great disgust. Maya suggested that she use a napkin if she decided to do so again. After all, watching people spit on a plate may not please others. Aisha got angry and got up from her chair. The girl concluded that Maya doesn't like her now. She wanted to know if the nanny had changed her mind about spending the night with her, and demanded that Maya answer this. Hearing the conversation between Aisha and Maya, Duke Raka was very surprised and asked to explain to him what was happening. He didn't know that the girl and the nanny had planned a sleepover together. Aisha told her older brother that she and the nanny were going to spend the night together. Raka looked at Maya and asked her to confirm her younger sister's words. Maya decided that it would be right to side with Aisha in order to settle everything. The girl looked guilty and admitted that she accidentally planned to spend the night with the girl. The nanny said that it was Aisha who wanted to have a sleepover. The girl confirmed her words and told her older brother that from that day on she would sleep with Maya. Raka tried to find out from the girl what Aisha meant by wanting to sleep with Maya from that day on. Maya panicked and started making signs that she would explain this later. The girl's gestures seemed to the Duke to be a manifestation of some kind of illness, and he asked the nanny about her well-being. The Duke rang the bell and called the maid. He asked the servant to bring medicine for Maya's eye twitching. The nanny was fine and tried to persuade Rock to stop. The girl jumped up from her chair and said that there was nothing wrong with her eyes, and she simply winked at the Duke. Raka did not believe Maya and decided that she had a serious problem. After the words were spoken, the girl realized that the children were looking at her all this time. She touched her hair and hesitated a little. Maya sat down on a chair and admitted that her eyes were indeed twitching due to fatigue. Raka was glad that he was right. Delcane was concerned about the girl's condition. He carefully inquired about her well-being. The girl told the boy that she was a little tired and was going to go and rest for a while after she had eaten. Aisha finished her piece and declared that she could no longer eat. She picked up a napkin and wiped her mouth with it, expecting to be noticed and praised. Maya saw the girl's action and was very surprised. Aisha explained her behavior by saying that she did not want to cause discomfort to others. The nanny was very happy that the girl grasped everything on the fly. She praised Aisha, noting that there was no other child as smart and good as her. The girl proudly declared that now Maya finally understood her value. The nanny suggested that Aisha would soon start eating vegetables, and the girl confirmed her guesses and promised to show it. Raka explained to Maya that in any case she would have to take the medicine that the maid should bring. The Duke told the nanny that he would pretend that he had not heard that she would sleep with Aisha. The girl heard this and became furious. Maya was upset because of Rocky's ban. Aisha considered her brother's demand outrageous and demanded that he not interfere in her relationship with the nanny. Raka tried to explain to the girl that this should not be done, but in response, she accused him of having already slept with Maya. The Duke's face turned red, because he was not prepared for the fact that Aisha could find out. The girl said that since her older brother didn't tell him anything, she went and found out everything herself. Not giving in to the persuasion of his younger sister, Raka declared that the nanny should sleep only with him, because that was her duty, and others could not do this. Raka demanded that the girl learn to distinguish between public life and private life. Aisha was offended by her brother, and her eyes began to fill with tears. Maya sat at the table and silently watched what was happening. She reflected that the situation had only gotten worse. The Duke stood up from the table and silently went about his business. Maya wanted to know where he was going and called the man. The man turned around to find out what was going on and explained to the girl that he was heading to his office on business. Maya caught up with him and suggested that the Duke console Aisha. Raka explained his action by saying that there was a limit to the girl's hysterics. The nanny believed that he acted too cruelly. Raka confessed to the girl that last night he could not sleep without Maya. He said that after the day he was unconscious, he could not sleep because of Aisha. Einthai's family knew how to use black magic, but in exchange for this power, when people closed their eyes, they heard the voices of the dead. In the Empire, people tried to avoid black magic because it contained forbidden spells. One had only to use this magic once, and a person began to hear the dead. Maya began to guess that Raka used forbidden magic, and that is why he was looking for the shakir flower. The Duke noticed that Maya could not refuse Aisha an overnight stay, unlike him. Raka was not sure that he could hold out for 2 more days. It became clear to the girl that this was all due to the fact that Raka did not get enough sleep, and suggested that his reaction depended on how close the contact with her would be. Maya politely asked the Duke about his intentions to be busy in the near future, and then suggested that they try to get him to sleep. The man suspected a trick and wanted to know the reason for such a proposal. Maya hinted to him that the children had no classes today, and Raka just couldn't sleep. The girl suggested that they would succeed if she did not get too close to the Duke. The nanny confessed to the Duke that she felt guilty for leaving yesterday. Therefore, she now decided to ask Rock's permission to help him. Quickly turning around, the Duke walked straight down the corridor. Maya invited him to come at night if he did not want it now, but in response, she heard Rocky's offer to go after him now. He moved so fast that the girl did not hurry after him and asked him to go slower. The Duke, on the contrary, hurried Maya and explained his haste by great fatigue. It was very dark in Rocky's room due to the thick curtains, and this surprised the girl. She asked if the man always closed the curtains. Raka replied that he sleeps better this way. The girl suggested that the darkness could oppress the man. The Duke began to take off his outer clothing and explained to Maya that the darkness could not oppress him because the light was unpleasant to him. The girl believed that usually a man could sleep only thanks to the shakir flower. Raka hung up his clothes and said that he could not afford it every day because the flower was not so easy to get. The Duke admitted that he used the shakir flower once every 2 or 3 days. The girl found this fact incredible. Maya could not even imagine how he held on all this time. Thinking about Rocky's words, she thought that in the novel, the Duke could do all the crazy things because he couldn't sleep properly. The man sat down on the bed and hurried Maya. He stated that if someone saw them together, that person would think that the Duke was talking to the curtains. The girl approached the chair and asked permission to sit down instead of going to bed. Raka was surprised and asked the girl if she could sleep while sitting. Maya did not immediately understand the Duke's hint and, after a little hesitation, replied that of course she was not going to sleep while sitting. Raka was ready to go to bed, but could not persuade the girl to lie down on the bed next to him. He had to invite her to go to bed several times. The girl's plans did not include lying down together, she just wanted to help him sleep. Maya made the excuse that she was not going to sleep, and it was convenient for her. She calmed the Duke down, telling him that she would just sit on the chair. The man was surprised and reproached the girl for the fact that she was going to look at him while he was sleeping. Maya smiled back and explained to the Duke that she had slept well earlier. Raka suggested that it would be better to call her at night in the future. The Duke was a little resentful that he would have to sleep knowing that someone was watching him. Maya had no choice but to accept the fact that she would have to lie in the same bed with him, even though she was only here to put the Duke to bed and not sleep with him. The girl suddenly realized that if Raka fell asleep now, she would not call her in the evening. Moving closer to the curtains, Maya expressed her agreement to sleep together. It was difficult for the Duke to believe this, since the girl practically hid behind the curtains. Maya was very worried and felt that she needed to pull herself together. She opened the curtains and explained to the man that she just wanted a little freshness in the room. The room was filled with bright light, and the Duke of Raka had to cover his eyes with his hand in order to adjust. The Duke agreed to let some light into the room, but then he wanted Maya to go to bed anyway. The man got up and went into the next room to change clothes. The girl sat down on the bed and thought that when Raka returned, she would need to somehow, naturally, close the window. A strange sound was heard from the room in which the man was changing clothes, which Maya heard. The girl became curious and decided to turn around. Maya saw the Duke's bare, muscular back. She realized it was the sound of clothes being unbuttoned. Blushing with shame, the girl tried to cover her face with her hands. Maya was stunned by what she saw and tried to convince herself that she had not seen anything. The girl looked at the man's back, and when Raka turned around, Maya explained her gaze by saying that she was looking at a large, strong butterfly, which his back was so similar to. The nanny hesitated and confirmed once again that she had seen a butterfly near the window. She then decided to change the subject and complimented his good physical shape. Once again, Maya glanced at the Duke. He told her about how he practiced fencing every afternoon to strengthen his body. The man put on a robe and went out to the girl. Maya kept looking at him, and then Raka asked her how long she was going to stare. The Duke leaned over to the girl and said that he would not stop her from looking at herself, but she must take full responsibility for this. Covering her cheeks, reddened from embarrassment, with her hands, the girl was indignant and made excuses that she didn't want to look anywhere at all. Maya admired the Duke's back. It was the most beautiful butterfly-like relief of strong muscles that the girl had ever seen. The girl went to the window and opened it. Maya said she was hot and wanted to cool down a little. The girl could never admit that she was fascinated by the muscles on Rocky's back. After some time, the Duke hurried Maya. He called her to lie down in bed in case she did inhale the air. Maya still wasn't ready to go to bed and told him about it. The girl was still embarrassed and needed time to adjust, so she decided to go out onto the balcony. The weather was nice and clear that day. The girl went to the railing and began to enjoy the fresh air and rays of the sun. Raka went out to the balcony with Maya. He thought it was amazing that with her he could just close his eyes and relax, and he told the girl about it. The man admitted to her that for a long time he could not allow himself to rest peacefully and not think about how he could sleep. The girl stood and listened to him and did not know how to answer because she had never seen Raka like this before. Then he added that there was no need to attach importance to his words and again hurried the girl. Maya believed that the main thing was that she had an ability that could help Raka. She remembered how Aisha had told her then that she felt normal only from Maya's touch on her fingers. Maybe it could work with the Duke too. She entered the room and invited the man to hold on to her. Raka suggested that he could take her hand, but Maya only allowed him to touch her little finger. The girl's proposal greatly surprised the man. Maya began to make excuses and asked not to think of her as if she had gone crazy. She thought it would be a good idea to try this. After listening to the girl's excuse, Raka smiled and agreed with her proposal, without attaching any importance to it. It seemed to Maya that he did not take her words seriously. The girl did not understand what the Duke was talking about. Raka put his hand forward and explained that Maya's hands were too small compared to him. The girl put her palm forward so they could compare their palms. Now Maya could see the difference and realized that it would be awkward for him to hold her little finger. She asked Rock to lie down, and she sat down next to him on the edge of the bed. The man was a little surprised, but obediently complied with her request. The man placed his hand on the sheet, and Maya touched his middle and ring fingers with the tip of her little finger. Around them, the room began to fill with a barely noticeable golden glow. The girl smiled welcomingly at the Duke and inquired about his feelings. Raka lay on the bed and slowly relaxed. He began to feel pleasantly sleepy and the headaches leaving him. The girl asked him to close his eyes and then describe his feelings. Maya could see how comfortable the Duke was at this moment. Raka described his feelings as unusually pleasant and light. He was glad that he could just lie serenely with his eyes closed under the rays of the sun. Turning his head, he looked at Maya and said that it was all thanks to her. The man admitted that he couldn't feel so good if it weren't for her. Maya looked at him and was surprised that the Duke could show such sincere emotions. She promised Raka to continue to help him feel this feeling. The man reacted with misunderstanding to what Maya said. The girl hesitated and did not know how to explain this because she was intoxicated by the atmosphere and therefore impulsively said so. She needed to come up with some logical explanation for her words, but nothing good came to mind, and then she remembered the contract. Raka was still wary and awaited clarification. Maya explained that she meant that she must faithfully follow the rules of the contract. The girl went to the window and began to draw the curtains. She urged them to pull themselves together and not interfere in the affairs of the main characters because it never ended well. Upon contact, the Duke looked like a gentle lamb, but in reality he was the embodiment of evil. He was the kind of evil who wouldn't even blink an eye at killing someone. The main characters of the novel were specially given a beautiful appearance, but one should not succumb to this. Maya closed the curtains completely, and the room became dark. She decided that she should not feel anything towards Raka. The next day came. The girl again came to the Duke's room to put him to bed, and this time she dared to lie in his bed. Maya asked Rocky about the sensations he experienced last time and suggested that he do the same today. The man was lying next to Maya in a dark room on the same bed. He closed his eyes and tried to relax again and fall asleep. Maya lay quietly next to her, and all this time she looked intently at the Duke. Raka felt this and reprimanded the girl. They started arguing among themselves. The girl did not understand how Raka could feel her gaze and made the excuse that she was just about to close her eyes. The Duke smiled and suggested that Maya repeat the same thing, only with her eyes closed, so that it would look more believable. After his words, the girl hastened to close her eyes. After some time, Raka fell asleep, and Maya wondered after what hour he would need to be woken up. She herself felt slightly tired and gradually began to fall asleep. The girl herself did not notice how she fell asleep, but after some time she was awakened by the voice of the Duke, who was calling her by name. Maya opened her eyes and assumed it was still a dream. Raka hovered directly above the girl and looked at her. The entire room was shrouded in a dark aura of black magic. The man pulled the girl by the shoulder with one hand to wake her up quickly. Maya assumed that when she tossed and turned in her sleep, she accidentally touched Rocky, but this should not have been done. She asked the Duke to leave her. The man looked at the girl passionately and told her to call him by name. The Duke's eyes filled with an aura of magic, and the girl noticed it. The girl once again asked Raku to move away, but the man did not want to do this. And then Maya warned him that he might regret what happened. She tried to persuade Raka to stop, because now he was not himself and could not control the consequences. The man considered it not important and said that he would not regret it now or later. Maya tried to explain to the Duke that she knew more about the Duke's future than he did, and he should not have underestimated it. Raka did not believe it and leaned closer to the girl. The man practically touched Maya's face. Raka confessed to the girl that he passionately desired her at that moment, and it was so strong that he was ready to die. The girl thought that if the Duke was going to die, then let him do it himself. She tried to push him away with her hands, but this did not lead to the desired result. It seemed that nothing could stop Raka. The girl began to threaten the Duke, but this only fueled his interest. Maya couldn't understand why he had such an overreaction to her words. In order to protect herself from the Duke's attacks, the girl grabbed his head. She was worried about what he might do to her next. Raka grabbed the girl's hand tightly and removed it from her face. Now she could not move it. He reassured the girl that his behavior was not delirium due to fever. Maya asked the Duke to let go of her wrist and then completely move away from her. Raka released the girl's hand and called the girl's desire to let her go stupid. The Duke thought that the girl might be uncomfortable and offered to change her pillow. Maya decided that this might be a good chance to free herself and asked Rock to show her the pillows. In an instant, she grabbed one of the pillows and swung it with all her might. The girl hit the man and asked for forgiveness for it. She covered the Duke's face with a pillow and hoped that this would help avoid his advances. Raka did not expect this from Maya and did not have time to react. Having come to his senses, the man removed the pillow from his face. He accused the girl of wanting to make him lose consciousness. The girl began to ask for forgiveness for her action. The man began to get out of bed and asked her not to apologize, but to do the same next time when something similar happens. Maya listened in surprise to the Duke's proposal. Raka explained that at the moment this was the only way he could come to his senses, and next time he would also allow himself to be deceived so that the girl could act. Breathing out a sigh of relief, Maya agreed to do the same when necessary. Then she asked Rock what time it was. The Duke saw on his pocket watch that it was already 7 in the evening and told the girl about it. Maya noticed that she slept more than she thought and asked Rock if he would stay in the room. The man had a lot of things to do, but he told Maya that he could do them tomorrow and then invited her to have dinner together. The girl politely refused and was about to leave with his permission. Before she could leave the room, the girl noticed how the Duke began to feel unwell. The man complained to the girl that he began to feel dizzy. Raka lay down on the bed again and began to hint that he did not get enough sleep. The Duke invited the girl to go back to bed and help him sleep well. Maya believed that the man had already slept enough and refused him. Raka had a different opinion and argued that he does not sleep every day and therefore needs more sleep. The man tried to persuade the girl to stay because the sun had already set and it was now evening. The Duke hinted to the girl that they should follow the contract. The girl understood that she had no choice. Raka asked Maya not to worry anymore and just go to bed. For his part, he promised not to do anything bad to her again. Morning has come. Maya woke up and found herself alone in the room. She noticed that the night passed calmly and nothing really happened. The maid entered the room and headed towards Maya. Rita was holding a tray of cookies, which she immediately offered to the girl. Maya tried one cookie and liked it. The girl asked the maid the name of this delicacy. The maid replied that it was called a love cookie. The cookies were very tasty and sweet. The maid explained to Maya that it was like that because it was a love cookie for the nanny. The girl asked the maid if it was the Duke who asked her to give these cookies. The maid confirmed her guesses and considered this act very sweet and romantic. Rita explained that since Raka had been living with the twins all this time, and now he asked to make these cookies for the nanny, then they could only be love cookies. Maya was very surprised by this. Maya asked to tell the true name of this cookie. The maid was surprised and called it chocolate. Maya now realized that these were actually chocolate chip cookies, made with love. In the office, Raka sat at the table and worked with documents. He called Shiram to him. The assistant noticed that the Duke was usually not visible in the afternoon, but now he decided to show up. Raka was working with documents more slowly than usual, and Shiram noticed this. The Duke was filling out the form when he suddenly said the name Maya out loud. The assistant also heard the nanny's name. An aura of black magic appeared over the Duke. Raka did not want to give the nanny's name and asked Shiram to confirm his words. The servant pretended that he had misheard, because the Duke could never even think about women. The Duke wanted to know how Shiram knew the nanny's real name. The assistant justified himself by saying that the gentleman himself had recently asked to find out about the girl. Raka asked Shiram about where the interim report had gone, but the assistant made the excuse that the gentleman had not yet asked about it. This infuriated the Duke very much, but Shiram began to report to him. Maya was from Libertan. The oracle said that the blue-eyed child born in Libertan would be called God's daughter. According to the oracle's instructions, she was taken to the temple and raised as God's daughter. Libertan was a wilderness on the outskirts of the Zerdia Empire. It was a place where crime was rampant, and no one would be surprised if a child went missing there. Shiram said that after the girl returned to the temple, the oracle descended again. He then took the letter out of his jacket pocket and handed it to the Duke. Raka opened the letter and began to read. It was said that the daughter of the sender of the letter, having awakened her abilities, would restore stability in Zerdia. The Duke realized that the girl was hiding her identity because the oracle called her God's daughter. He knew that the emperor's power was not stable, and if this became known to everyone, the emperor's position would weaken. He may lose the support of his subjects. Raka remembered how Maya always wanted to go somewhere, and felt as if her life was in danger. Shiram admitted that he tried to find out the reason for her escape, but there was no clue. The assistant said that he could make friends with the nanny and then directly find out everything from her. Shiram noticed that the nanny treated him well. The Duke stood up from his chair and rested his hands on the table. He told the servant not to waste time finding out. Raka said that he would find out everything himself. After the end of the lesson, the door to the corridor opened, and Delkine appeared in it. He was glad to see the girl and admitted to her that he missed her. The boy asked the nanny how she was able to rest. The girl thanked him for his concern, and in response asked Delkane if he had paid attention in the history lesson. Delkane admitted that he listened to the lesson without interest, since he already knew all this, but Aisha should have studied harder. Maya encouraged the boy that his knowledge would be useful to him in the future. The nanny learned from the boy that Aisha did not come to class today and was very worried about this. Then he said that yesterday, his sister didn't even come to dinner. Maya felt guilty for Aisha's bad behavior and wanted to know if the girl was still angry with her. Delcane didn't think his sister was angry and assumed she would calm down soon. The girl was curious to know if the girl had quarreled with the Duke before. Delcane suggested that this had not happened in their home before the nanny arrived. Realizing that Raka and his younger sister were fighting over Maya, she decides to think of a way to appease Aisha. To do this, the nanny decides to ask the boy about what his sister likes. When asked by the nanny about Aisha's preferences, Delcane, thinking a little, names meat. There was something else, but the boy could tell about it only if Maya promised to fulfill his wish. The girl was excited by Delcane's proposal. She couldn't even imagine what the boy could demand from her, but she still risked agreeing to it. Smiling suspiciously, Delcane suggested telling the girl about his desire some other time. Maya began to doubt the boy's innocence a little. Aisha's preference turned out to be very unexpected for the nanny. Delcane admitted to Maya that the girl loved all flowers. The girl was very surprised and did not immediately believe that such a prankster as Aisha could love flowers. The boy assured Maya of this, and since he was her brother, Maya decided to trust him. The nanny asked Delcane to help her find a plot of flowers in which she could collect a bouquet. The boy willingly agreed to show her such a place. Delcane took Maya to a beautiful garden full of various flowers. The girl was delighted with such a wonderful place. The boy explained that Raka gave this garden to Aisha for her birthday. Maya didn't understand how other people could come here if it was Aisha's garden, but Delcane explained to her that others could come in, but now his sister was forbidden to do so. The boy told the nanny that although there was no danger, Aisha used black magic, and her older brother punished her by forbidding her to come to this place. They assumed that the girl wanted to get here. Maya sat down among the flowers and wanted to know which one Aisha liked the most. Delcane told the nanny that his sister liked all the flowers here. Having collected a beautiful bouquet of flowers, Maya decided to show it to Delcane. She needed to know his opinion before showing the bouquet to Aisha. A few moments later, the girl discovered that she was alone in the garden. Maya was surprised by the boy's disappearance, because he was not one of those who could leave without saying a word. Fearing for Delcane's life, she began to look for him. The girl called his name several times, but no one responded. Maya began to blame herself for her inattention and for losing him. She was already beginning to despair and decided that she needed to tell others about this, when suddenly a boy appeared among the flowers. Maya rushed to hug Delcane. She was incredibly happy to see him. The nanny hugged the boy so tightly that for several moments he could not breathe. Tears ran down Maya's cheeks, and she admitted that she was very afraid that nothing would happen to the boy. Delcane apologized for trying to scare her a little. Having calmed down a little, the girl asked the boy where he had been all this time. In response, Delcane handed Maya a beautiful wreath of flowers. The boy was holding in his hands a wreath that he had made himself. Because of this, his hands were all scratched, but he was happy that he tried to make such a gift for Maya. Maya liked the wreath Delcane made and thought it was very nice of him. The girl thought that his soul was much more beautiful than the wreath. Delcane was glad that the girl liked his gift and asked Maya to bend over a little so that he could put it on her head. The wreath turned out to be slightly larger than the head and slid down onto Maya's shoulders. Delcane hadn't planned for this to happen, so he felt awkward. To cheer the boy up, Maya winked at him and said that now his wreath looked like a beautiful flower necklace. And it was beautiful because it was Delcane who made it. Maya tried to remember an excerpt from the novel. She didn't understand how Delcane could have gotten into trouble and imagined him with a sword standing over Reina's body. The nanny could not believe that someone like him could mock the main character. She wondered how it all ended. Maya thought that she had completely forgotten the story about Aintia. Delcane noticed his daughter-in-law's puzzlement. She explained her thoughtfulness by saying that she wanted to make a wreath for him and Aisha. Maya and Delcane, along with flowers, came to Aisha's room and knocked on the door. The nanny knocked on the door and told the girl that she had brought a gift for her. The girl told Aisha in an enticing voice that she had brought a bouquet and invited her to pick it up. Otherwise, Maya hinted that she would leave and take him with her. Aisha became interested in Maya and Delcane's proposal and opened the door a few moments later. The girl slowly looked out to look at the flowers. Maya gave the flowers to the girl and began to wait for her reaction. The girl was very worried that Aisha would not get angry and very friendly offered to look at the bouquet. Tears appeared in Aisha's eyes. The girl was surprised that the nanny learned about the girl's love for flowers. She apologized to Maya for ignoring her. The nanny took out a wreath and handed it to Aisha. The girl admitted that she made it together with Delcane. The boy and Maya were very pleased with their gifts. They put the wreath on the girl, and Maya complimented her. The girl considered the wreath to be a very beautiful decoration that suited Aisha. The girl invited Annie and her brother to her room. She then said that she hoped that they would come to console her, but no one cared. Maya tried to calm the girl down. The girl suggested that Aisha might be sad herself in the room, and she confirmed that she felt as if she was locked there. Hearing Aisha's words about how she was locked up, Maya became agitated. She remembered how there was something similar in the novel. In the novel that Maya read, it was about how, as punishment for persecuting Reina, the Aintia twins were forever imprisoned in a tower. The girl did not attach any importance to this. She thought that whoever committed the crime should be punished for it. She wanted to know the truth about whether the twins really abused Reina. Maya looked at the children and could not believe that they could do something like that. Perhaps something could happen in the future, but not now. The children were afraid for the girl's well-being. She sat opposite, motionless, completely immersed in her thoughts, and it seemed to them that Maya was not feeling well. Having come to her senses, Maya began to calm the twins down. She began to smile welcomingly and show hand gestures that everything was fine with her. Maya then suggested that the three of them go out to eat. The children agreed to have lunch. Aisha began to demand from Delcane that Maya sit next to her. The boy called her behavior kindergarten because Maya could sit in the middle and called his sister an idiot. The girl considered it a good sign that the children began to quarrel, but warned them not to do that. Aisha pointed at her brother and accused him of being the first to call her an idiot. Maya said Delcane should have been the first to apologize this time. She argued that Aisha was, therefore, in a bad mood. The boy felt injustice towards himself. Delcane agreed with Maya and asked her sister for forgiveness. Aisha reluctantly agreed to accept his apology, but stated that she was doing it for the sake of the Anai. Maya praised the children for this. The girl was in a good mood about what was happening and promised to give the twins something as a token of praise. Hearing the girl's proposal, the children froze in surprise and looked carefully at Maya. They were very interested in what she was going to give them. The twins began to question Maya. The girl thought for a moment that the children might not need her praise at all, because she had the feeling that they did not know what it was. Maya promised to give the children seals of praise for every good deed. For every 10 seals collected, she pledged to fulfill any of their wishes. Delcane and Aisha were delighted with this proposal. They were skeptical at first, but Maya assured them that she could do whatever they wanted. All three settled down in one of the rooms. Delcane and Maya sat down on chairs, and Aisha took the mirror and looked at herself in it with satisfaction. The nanny thought that the girl liked the wreath. Aisha turned to her brother and showed off her gift. The girl wanted to know Delcane's opinion about her appearance. The boy sat with his hands behind his head, and he explained to his sister that he had already complimented her, but Aisha demanded to hear it from him again. Delcane believed that the wreath was so beautiful because it was made by his daughter-in-law. Maya was pleased to hear good words about her gifts from the children. The girl decided that she would need to give the twins something more often in the future. There was a knock on the door of the room, and Maya looked out to check. A maid stood at the entrance. Seeing the girl, she was a little surprised that the nanny was still with the children. Rita reported that the Duke wanted to have dinner with the children and Nanny. Maya liked Rocky's proposal because when they eat together, she can eat a lot of delicious things. But, on the other hand, the girl did not want to see them quarrel again. The maid added that Mr. Rocca said that from now on they would definitely eat together. Rita was very excited by the Duke's display of love for his nanny. Maya thought that Aisha would eat with Rocca again, despite the fact that they had recently quarreled. The maid asked the nanny to convey her words to the twins. The girl returned to the room and began to convey the maid's words about today's dinner, but Aisha interrupted her with a question about whether Maya would be present with them. Aisha heard a positive answer from the nanny and was immediately delighted. The girl made a joyful gesture with her hands and admitted that today was the best day of her life. Maya saw the girl in a good mood and confessed to her that the Duke would also be at this dinner. Aisha didn't like this, and she lay down on the floor and began screaming, stamping her feet and waving her arms. The nanny tried to calm the girl down and explained to her that she could not eat separately all the time. Aisha was indignant and said that then she would stop eating altogether. Persuasion did not work on Aisha. Maya offered to go together, and then the girl could decide what to do next. Aisha was angry and asked to tell the Duke that she did not want to have dinner with him. The girl accepted the fact that she would not be able to persuade Aisha and decided to go alone with Delcane. Aisha angrily insisted that they explain to her brother that there was no way she was going to eat with him. Someone knocked on the room in which the Duke was doing business. The man opened the door to check and found the priestess there. Maya looked very excited about something. She asked Rock to talk together for a while. The Duke offered to go to his office and discuss everything there. Maya politely refused because she did not plan to drag out the conversation for long. Raka began to listen carefully to the girl, and she told that Aisha did not want to eat with him. Maya assumed that the girl was still angry with her older brother. He explained Aisha's behavior by saying that she still had not thought about her behavior. Raka believed that the girl would come herself when she was hungry. The girl was a little surprised by the Duke's answer. Maya was sure that Aisha was not the type who would come here just because she was hungry. She confessed to Raka that the girl had declared a minute ago that she would not eat. After listening carefully to the nanny, Raka realized that Aisha behaved this way because she was upset. The man became furious and was determined to talk to the girl right now, which scared Maya. The Duke went to his younger sister's room. Maya believed that it was impossible to allow the man to shout at Aisha again now and hastened to stop him. She followed him and grabbed his hand. The girl was a little scared for holding Rock's wrist. She hesitated and tried to explain her action. The aura of dark magic increasingly enveloped the Duke. He told Maya to let him go and wait here. The girl expected that from her touch, he would immediately lose his composure. It looked like the man was trying to control himself, but it was very difficult for him. The Duke asked Maya to give him some time. She looked at him with worried eyes and tried to understand whether the Duke had lost his self-control. The girl addressed him by name to check this. Raka held on with all his might. He asked Maya not to use his name because he felt it was driving him crazy. The Duke recalled that at first he lost his mind as soon as a girl touched him. Maya suggested that things were different now, and Raka agreed with this, but now he could not hold back. The man grabbed the girl's hand and approached her. Raka looked at her with a loving gaze and called her by name. Maya realized that the man had deceived her because he was no longer okay. The girl saw Raki's assistant in the corridor. She decided to redirect the Duke's attention to him and told the man that Shiram was idle. Raka was unhappy with Shiram's appearance. The assistant decided that the nanny was bullying him and found it very offensive. Maya tried to justify herself to the servant. She urgently needed to figure out a way to get rid of the Duke's touch. Raka told Shiram to vacate the office, and the assistant obediently agreed. Realizing that the girl has no other choice but to use her body, she decides to attempt to step very hard on the Duke's foot. Maya apologizes for stepping on his foot, but the man manages to remove his foot and lets the girl know that she has messed up something. The girl looked at Raki's loving face and decided to use the other leg. She was thinking about how to trip him. Aisha appeared on their way. The girl was very keen on Raku. She believed that the Duke could not come to her because something happened, but instead, she saw him trying to kiss Maya. Aisha quickly moved towards the Duke. She told him to move away from Maya now and accused him of being a bad brother. The girl was very excited by what Aisha saw, although on the other hand, she was standing very close to the Duke, and it was logical to think so. The girl grabbed onto Raka and demanded that he and Maya let each other go. The nanny promised to give the girl a seal of praise if she could separate them. Maya began offering Aisha 2 seals instead of 1. The girl agreed and asked the Unni to keep her promise in the future. Delighted that she could earn 2 seals, Aisha began to create a ball of black magic. Maya was afraid for this, because the girl was forbidden to use black magic. The girl realized that it was necessary to separate her hands from the Duke as soon as possible. She tried to quickly pull her hand away to free herself and asked Aisha to stop using magic. After Maya was freed, Aisha was already standing next to her with a piece of paper and, pleased, demanded that Maya put 2 seals of praise. All 3 entered the office and sat down separately from each other. Maya didn't understand why they still hadn't eaten, but were sorting things out, because Delcane was waiting for them there. Maya suggested that the brother and sister make peace. The Duke believed that if he was the first to start making peace, Aisha would become even more spoiled. The girl was very angry with him and did not want to put up with him either. Maya noticed that the only time the Duke spent with the twins was during meals, but it ended up in an argument and suggested that there must be a way to make things right. The girl knew that the children had no lessons tomorrow and asked the Duke if he would have free time tomorrow. Raka replied that he could free himself a little and wanted to know what it was for. The Duke's answer pleased the girl, and she suggested that everyone go on a picnic together tomorrow. Aisha didn't know what a picnic was, and Maya explained to her that it was an outing into nature where people took food with them. There, they admire the scenery and have a good time, and there you can see flowers. The girl wanted to go on a picnic. Raka did not care that Aisha went there because he considered it the most useless activity. Then the sister was indignant and decided to go on a picnic without him. Waving her hands with joy, Aisha began to ask Maya to go into nature without the Duke. She told her brother that he didn't go anywhere except for Shakir's flowers, and it wasn't interesting to be with him. Raka stood up from his chair and said that he could also go on a picnic with them. He admitted his guilt in that he never took twins for nothing. Maya noticed that the atmosphere between them had become much better. She was glad that this would be their first picnic together and promised to prepare snacks for him. Aisha asked Unnai to cook them delicious fried potatoes like last time. Raka said that he could inquire about a place where they could have a picnic. The girl was pleased that now they could sit down to dinner together and use the picnic as an excuse to discuss. The girl asked her brother if he was busy, and without waiting for his answer, she grabbed the nanny by the hand and dragged her to the dining room. Slamming the door to the office, Aisha continued to shout to her older brother, who remained inside, that they had gone to eat without him. Maya began to worry that they did not take the Duke with them. She stopped the girl and wanted to know from her whether it was right how they left Raka in such a state. Aisha explained that in any case, the elder brother did not eat when he was busy with something, and now he needed to start choosing a place for a picnic. Maya wondered if that was the only reason. In the evening after dinner, Maya was sitting on her bed in her room. She felt bad after eating because she was very nervous the day before. Raka approached the door of the room. The girl did not expect to see him here and hurried to find out the reason for his appearance. The Duke crossed the threshold of the room and explained his appearance with a desire to talk to the girl if she did not mind it. Maya looked at Rock excitedly. It seemed to her that some kind of problem had arisen. The man behaved a little strangely, as if he was trying to find something in the room. The man admitted that he smelled the Shakir flower in the room, and it seemed to him that he felt calmer from it. The girl, hearing this, thought that this was her ability. Raka sat down at the table and began to talk about how he had come to discuss something. Maya considered his arrival unnecessary, and she said that he could just call her over. The Duke admitted that he was going to do this, but thought that it would be dangerous to invite the girl to his place late in the evening. He then recalled how he promised to find a place for a picnic. The man had to find the picnic spot himself, so he did some research. To do this, Raka reviewed several books on how people conduct picnics. He brought these books with him and said that as a result of his research, he found out that picnics are organized, including in his own yard, in the yard of his house. Raka thought this was a good option, because this way he could work and be on a picnic at the same time. Maya looked at the Duke with a surprised face. She wondered how Raka knew that people were having a picnic in their backyard. The Duke handed the book to the girl and said that he learned about this from it. The nanny took the book from Rocky and wanted to know its name. She was a little outraged by the Duke's proposal, since she considered it wrong to have a picnic in her yard. The man said that the book was called Mom, Dad, Let's Go on a Picnic, and explained that there weren't that many books, so he relied on it. The girl assumed that the Duke had read a fairy tale. The girl took another look at the strange titles of the books that the Duke had brought. She was surprised that all this time Raka was doing this nonsense, and not even eating. The Duke explained that after reading this literature, he realized that the location of the picnic was not that important. The main thing was that they were going to spend time together. Maya realized that Raka had never been to a picnic and could not be trusted to organize such an event. She explained to the man that the picnic was not only a vacation, but also an education. The girl believed that if you had a picnic in the yard, it might look more like a walk, so doing it in the yard would be wrong. She also thought that Aisha would be disappointed because of this. Raka began to call upon dark magic to burn the book. He considered it useless because it contained information that only bothered him. Maya tried to stop the Duke. The nanny explained that the book was not intended to give him information. Raka suggested that Maya was related to the author. Maya justified that she didn't know the author and offered to figure it out together. It looked like the Duke was completely confused. He scratched his head and said that now he would have to start everything from scratch. Maya calmed Rock down and asked if he knew the Zerdia Empire well. The man replied that the Duke was obliged to know the territories of the states. The girl asked Rock to name places he knew with beautiful nature or historical sites. The man replied that he knew a place where both criteria were combined. The Duke thought for a moment and suggested that going to a suggested location was a good idea. Maya was glad that they had decided on a picnic spot and suggested they go to bed. The nanny sat down on the bed and asked where they would sleep today, because her bed was too small for the two of them to fit on it. Raka replied that he would sleep in the chair today. The man moved a chair closer to the girl's bed and asked if she could let him hold her hand. Maya lay down on the bed, and the Duke positioned himself in the chair so that he could touch her palm. The girl lay there and thought about whether everyone would be in a good mood tomorrow. The dangerous forest was a source of black magic, in which all sorts of small evil spirits lived. So often no one went into this dark place. Shiram learned that the Duke, his nanny, and the twins had gone into a dangerous forest. He believed that this was not a picnic at all, but a training exercise to develop courage, and hoped that everything would be all right with them. Finding herself in the forest, the girl was a little upset because she imagined it differently. Raka explained that he had brought the children and Maya to exactly the place he had spoken about earlier. The girl indignantly demanded that the Duke show her historical sites. Raka emphasized that he had brought them to a very ancient place. The Duke pointed to the thicket of the forest and explained that it was here that the black magic of Antia once originated. The children froze in amazement as they listened to their older brother. The girl mentally asked them for forgiveness because she also did not know that they would come to such a place. Maya began to make excuses for bringing them here with the Duke, but the children really liked it here. Aisha said that she didn't know about this place at all, and Delcane noticed what good taste her daughter-in-law had. The twins began to play near Maya and rejoice at how wonderful it was here. The girl realized that these were unusual children and they might like this. She looked at Rock and said it was great that the kids liked the place. The Duke looked kindly back at the girl and admitted that it was all thanks to her. Having decided on the place, Maya offered to settle down here, and at that time a large scolopendra crawled up to her feet. Seeing the insect, the girl was not at a loss and quickly reacted. Maya exclaimed and rushed to attack him. After fighting the insect, the girl looked around and discovered that her basket had disappeared somewhere. Maya was absolutely sure that she had just had it in her hands. Looking at the Duke, she found her basket on his head. A red liquid reminiscent of blood flowed from the basket onto Rock's face, but it was just strawberry juice. The girl felt awkward about what happened. She asked the Duke for forgiveness and explained her action by saying that she was simply suddenly frightened. Maya walked over to the man to help him get rid of the basket and wipe his face. She tried to find the handkerchief she had taken with her. The soiled handkerchief fell out of the basket and made the girl laugh. The nanny offered to use her clothes so that the Duke could dry himself. She took off her shawl and offered it to Raka. The man politely refused and suggested that she not get dirty. Feeling guilty for what happened, Maya began to persuade the Duke to give her a chance to correct her mistake. The girl asked to wipe Rock's face and clothes, and she wanted to wash the shawl later. Resigned to the fact that he would still have to accept help from the girl, the Duke allowed her to wipe him off. Maya took the handkerchief in her hand and began to wipe the man's face. The Duke hurried the girl, but she carefully continued to dry him. The girl said that in any case it would remain sticky even though they wiped everything off. There was still a trace of strawberry juice on the man's face, and Maya tried to wipe it away, and Raka was with a basket on his head the whole time. The girl invited the Duke to stay here while she went to look around. Maya believed that perhaps there was a lake nearby somewhere. Raka refused the nanny's offer and said that he would go in search of the lake himself. Then he turned around and walked in the other direction, and Maya began shouting after him to take the basket off his head. Aisha crept up to Maya and slyly began to offer to show her something. She stressed that Unni would be surprised if the girl showed her this. The girl walked away, and a living flower appeared before the girl's eyes. With eyes and mouths, it looked very creepy. Maya screamed, frightened by this monster unknown to her. Aisha asked if the priestess liked him. She picked a flower, and handing it to the girl, said enthusiastically that it was even moving. Maya was even more frightened. She screamed again, and reflexively hit the flower with her hand with all her might. Remnants of the creature flew to the ground. Aisha looked upset. The girl was afraid that the child was about to cry. She asked if the girl wanted to go with her and pick such a plant. Aisha lowered her eyes, answering in the negative. She said that the flower was still alive. A small long mouth came out of the plant's head. It crawled along the ground and then screeched very loudly. Maya screamed, ordering the creature to be silent. She asked if Aisha was okay. Suddenly, she saw an aura of black magic begin to emanate from the girl. Aisha replied that Unai was right. It is not a flower at all. Maya was surprised that she realized this only now. The girl heard some unknown noise behind her. She turned around to look. Delcane shouted at the girls to run away from here. Maya saw him hurrying towards them and waved to him. Running past his daughter-in-law, he grabbed her hand, emphasizing that he told them to run. He was very scared. Pulling his daughter-in-law by the hand, he exclaimed, "If she doesn't want to die, then she had better run away with all her might." The nanny asked the boy to wait and explain what was happening. Assuming that there was something behind them, Maya turned around without stopping to look. A huge monster crawled behind them, similar to the flower she was trying to kill. The girl asked what it was. Delcane replied that there was no point in asking questions now, urging his daughter-in-law to simply run. Meanwhile, Raka was reminiscing about how cute he thought it was when Maya wiped his face with a handkerchief. He was very embarrassed by what had happened and irritated by his reaction to it. His heart was beating like crazy. He did not understand what was happening to him. Rubbing his cheek, he thought it was just a touch. Raka speculated that perhaps his reaction was this way because of Maya's ability. He fell to his knees in front of the river and began to wash himself, mentally asking himself that Maya was only replacing the shakir flower. Why then was he not himself? Raka thought that he should speed up because they were waiting for him. He shook his head, thinking he was starting to come to his senses. There was a bush with fruit nearby. The man suggested that sweet fruits should grow somewhere in this area. And Maya likes sweets, so he decided to collect some. Besides, the basket is now empty. The fruits looked like sweet, juicy peaches. Raka wondered if Maya would like this. He assumed that she would be glad if he picked these fruits. Then Ruka froze. It suddenly dawned on him what he was doing. He was puzzled, wondering why he was collecting fruits for someone with whom he had a business relationship. The man was angry and crushed the fruits in his hands out of anger, thinking that he was still not himself. He heard a familiar sound and became wary. It was a lependes, a creature that spends most of its time hibernating. Rock was interested in the reasons why it suddenly woke up, and the only person who could touch this monster is Aisha. This infuriated the man, because the noise must have woken up the other lependes. Suddenly, Raka remembered Maya and began calling her. He was worried about her because he thought the twins would be able to take care of themselves. A girl's screams were heard from behind the foliage, and a moment later, his brother and sister were already approaching him, together with the nanny, scared to tears. She screamed at him to run. Raka saw lependes behind them. Aisha laughed merrily. The man angrily suggested that someone was in a good mood. He believed that he should quickly deal with this and return and began to prepare to use black magic. Maya, running past him, asked what he was doing, grabbing his hand and dragging him with her. She indicated to the man that he needed to leave. Raka blushed deeply, looking at the girl. He thought, what if he just kept running? And he smiled. Maya was surprised to ask if the Duke understood that the road they were now running on could lead them straight to death. Raka replied that they would not die so easily because of some flower. Maya exclaimed what the Duke proposes to do then. But Raka was absolutely happy with everything. She was very surprised that in such a situation everything suited him. Because the girl ran so fast, she had almost no strength left. Raka asked if she was tired. Maya, barely able to speak, replied that she thought she was going to die. It was too hard for her. The Duke stressed that he could not allow this. He handed the fruit basket to Maya and stopped abruptly. The girl stopped behind him, shielding the children. She could not believe that Raka himself let go of her hand. She began to worry about how this was possible and whether they could now hold hands without problems. Raka waved his hands, gathering black magic into a striking ball, and so many tongues of black magic rushed into the monster, tearing it to shreds with one powerful blow. There was silence, which was later broken by delighted children. Aisha admired her brother's coolness. Delcane asked how his daughter-in-law was feeling and whether she was very scared. Maya smiled, answering that she was just a little surprised by the magic. Raka asked if the priestess was okay. The girl nodded, barely holding back her tears. Aisha grumbled that Ini was scared because her brother used black magic. Raka corrected the girl, suggesting that the nanny was afraid of lependes. Aisha suggested in that case whether it would be better to find and dry lavender seeds. Delcane called the girl to look at another interesting flower. Maya was very nervous, which made her very tired. The children left, and they were left alone. Raka invited the girl to eat the contents of the basket. Maya was surprised, because the basket should be empty. Opening it, she discovers fruit in it and wonders what it is. The Duke does not know their names. Maya hesitated. Raka suggested that she try it, because it is a very rare fruit that grows only here. The girl started to tremble. She did not want to eat a fruit whose name was unknown. In addition, it grows in the birthplace of black magic. Maya asked if it was really not poisonous. Raka took the fruit from her hands and bit it. The priestess panicked. She was worried about the presence of poison in the unknown fruit. As soon as Maya tried to object, the man threw the fruit into her mouth. The girl happily noted that it was quite tasty. Raka smiled, saying as he expected, she likes sweets. Maya asked how the Duke understood this. The man laughed and replied that he heard Maya eat all the cookies. The girl exclaimed in embarrassment that she didn't want it to disappear. That's why she ate it. Raka emphasized that lying is not good. He turned around abruptly, shouting to the children not to touch that tree. The man asked the priestess to stay here while he went to get the children. Maya agreed. She thought how much she liked the taste of the nameless fruit. She learned about her taste preferences thanks to Raka. And for some reason, I felt strange because of this. Plunging into the carriage, the exhausted children fell asleep almost immediately. Raka started the conversation to break up the awkward silence by asking if the priestess was having a hard time with the twins. Maya replied that it was a bit difficult, but since they liked her, she was okay with everything. Raka was happy about this. The girl giggled, asking if he was worried that she might get tired, drop everything, and leave. Raka's face changed sharply when he asked the priestess about her departure. She asked if this wasn't an option when it was hard. The Duke interrupted the girl and categorically objected to her. Maya was frightened by Raki's stern appearance and sharp response. He suggested keeping quiet because he was feeling seasick. The girl did not understand that this suddenly happened to him. She assumed that he was seasick due to black magic. Maya was very tired because of such an active day, and she began to feel sleepy. Closing her eyes, she thought about how comfortable she was and where this softness came from. Raka leaned towards the priestess and placed his palm under her head, and Maya fell asleep. The Duke looked at the girl. His heart beat at a breakneck speed, and his cheeks filled with a bright blush. They drove quietly to the estate. The next day, Maya was stuck to the sofa and could not force herself to get up due to extreme fatigue. She was upset that they went on a picnic on her day off, and she had to work the next day. Today, there will be a fencing lesson at the training ground, and the girl was upset that today there should be a lesson on the street. Rita came through the door and inquired about the reason for the oppressive atmosphere. Maya told her that she had absolutely no strength to get up. It seems that she overexerted her body yesterday. The maid tried to support the nanny and began to open the curtains to ventilate the room, but there was a heavy downpour outside, which greatly puzzled the maid. After all, until this day, it was sunny all the time. Maya upsetly emphasized that God himself was on her side. It reminded her of Tiritus. He said that he would bring her a sacred relic, but there was no news from him. The girl was worried what if he wasn't going to bring anything. Rita noticed that, despite the rain, there would be a lesson, since the fencing competition would begin in a couple of days. Maya asked again, and the maid added that this is a huge event that takes place every 2 years. The girl thought, if this is such a huge event, then why doesn't she know anything about it? And is it possible that everything is because it happened before Reina met Kynes? Although the first blessing of Maya was also a scene from Kynes' past, and after that, Maya was supposed to fall asleep forever in a year. It suddenly dawned on Maya that this meant that the original story had not yet begun. The priestess became inspired, hoping that the story would begin in 4 months, and counting the amount accumulated during this time. Rita asked if the nanny was okay. She believed that the right thing to do would be to tell the Duke that it would be better for the nanny to rest today. Maya happily replied that everything was fine. She might be late for class. Arriving at the parade ground with the children, Raka was already waiting for them. The children were surprised by his arrival, and Delcane asked if everything was okay. The Duke stood in the rain without an umbrella, shaking his hair. He replied that he had come to check how the preparations for the competition were going. He heard that the twins would be sparring today. Maya was interested in the fact that the children would spar. Aisha claimed that she would beat Delcane. The boy objected to his sister, and the children began to argue. Raka ordered them to stop and go get ready. Maya was worried about the children and asked how about using an umbrella until the fight started. Delcane happily replied that his daughter-in-law shouldn't worry, they won't get sick. Aisha added that they were already wet anyway, so everything was fine. The children happily ran to get ready. The girl couldn't help but feel nervous, and Raka said he was more worried about her than the twins. Maya was surprised, and the man put his hand on her forehead. He added that she did not have a fever. The nanny was very embarrassed. Her cheeks turned very red, and she asked what he was doing. Raka replied that the maid told him that Miss was not feeling well, and if something hurts, she should tell her about it. You don't have to go through everything alone. Maya awkwardly replied that her muscles were just sore from running yesterday. Raka thought about it, saying that it is too bad that she is so weak. The girl wondered if he thought so because everyone in his family tree was very hardy. The children notified the Duke that Patrash was ready to spar. Maya wondered who Patrash was. She remembered a cute dog named Patrash and assumed that he was talking about her. And a large, strong man, Patrash Pavlov, who was responsible for fencing training, came out onto the parade ground. Raka explained to Maya who it was, and she could hardly contain her laughter, covering her mouth with her hand. He invited her to go to the parade ground and moved forward. Maya asked if the Duke uses an umbrella. The man replied that he did not take it because he believed that the rain would stop soon. Then the girl, smiling sweetly, offered to go together under her umbrella. A slight blush appeared on Rocky's cheeks, and he agreed. Imperial Palace of Zerdia. The servant turns to His Majesty, asking if he has seen the list of participants in the fencing competition. The man dejectedly replied that not yet. He wearily held his head, thinking that he had more important things to do. The Shakir flower has disappeared, and even worse, God's daughter has disappeared. The servant notified His Majesty that he had recently received information about a woman who could euthanize. They also say that Duke Aintia also found out about this. So it doesn't seem like this rumor is true. The emperor thought about it. If even Duke Aintia was looking for information about this, then this really is not just a rumor. He never does anything for nothing. Kynes asked if this woman was a saint by chance. The man replied that this would require further investigation. The emperor smiled, saying, "Whatever it was, this was good news. Now you can worry about other things." And he began to study the list of participants. Kynes laughed, saying that apparently these hooligan children of the Aintia family had already reached the age to participate in the fencing tournament. The servant confirmed. This will be the first time they appear in public. Kynes asked if they were really thinking about winning and getting a new title, since they couldn't remain under the Duke's rule forever. He believed that this was a completely possible option. The man pointed his finger at the list with interest and asked who it was. The servant answered, Cray Monteris is the eldest son of Count Monteris. He is also a candidate for number 1, however people call him a psycho. The emperor thought for a moment, asking how about pairing Monteris with the young master Aintia in the first round. The servant asked again. Kynes continued, having heard the testimony of the knights who were in the hut. This made him think that it was Duke Aintia with the twins. The man recalled that the readings were rather inaccurate. The emperor objected, saying, nevertheless, one must be prepared. As far as they know, only young Master Aintia cannot use black magic. Kynes would like young Master Aintia to remain forever in the shadow of his family. Maya stood with the Duke under the triumphal arch. The children were preparing for sparring. Patrash exclaimed that the battle had begun. Aisha swung her sword with a scream. Maya suggested that she was quite strong, which meant Delcane might lose. But the boy quite quickly and confidently repelled her attacks. Nanny immediately mentally took back her words. She asked the Duke who he thought would win. The man thought seriously, saying, if we take into account the long term, then Aisha should win. Maya asked what about a short fight. Raka replied that he doesn't know. They are both terrible. They are just wasting their time. A verbal skirmish begins between the children. Aisha tells her brother not to dare even try to deceive her. Delcane protested, urging his sister to concentrate. The children were glowing with confidence. Aisha believed that this was her chance to show her good side in front of the Nanny, and Delcane was very worried that his daughter-in-law was now watching. The boy attacked his sister, but she held back the blow, emphasizing that if he attacked with such force, he would fall. Aisha was confident that victory would be hers. Delcane deftly hits the girl on the leg, and she, without expecting it, falls to the ground. The brother puts a sword to his sister's neck, and Patrash declares Delcane the winner. Aisha began to make excuses that she lost because of the rain, but he will definitely win the fencing tournament. Delcane asked what she would do, since her daughter-in-law would not know whether she would win or not. The daughter-in-law will not go to the tournament. Aisha's eyes widened in surprise. She asked Nanny if that was true. Maya confirmed, saying that she would not be able to go. The girl exclaimed pitifully, turning to her older brother, "Can't Nanny go with them, because this is her desire?" Raka replied in the negative. But Aisha did not give up. She asked the reason for the refusal. The brother replied that this was not part of their plans. The sister continued to argue. Maya thought that the fencing tournament was a very large event. Therefore, Emperor Kynes cannot help but go to the tournament. If she is seen in such a crowded place, she will be immediately captured. Aisha asked if Nanny wanted to go to the fencing tournament. Maya replied softly that she really wanted to, but she couldn't. She will support them from here. Aisha exclaimed that she hates Nanny's. Maya walked along the corridor of their house, thinking about the girl's reaction. It seemed to her that Aisha was very upset. She said that the tournament would be in 2 days. This means that tomorrow they will also train. Maya suddenly had a good idea to make juice to support the girl. Maya prepared the juice in the kitchen, and the cook, after trying it, began to admire the incredible taste. He asked if the nanny made this for their picnic. It was just perfect for his taste. The girl excitedly asked if Aisha would like this juice. Since at the picnic, she couldn't give it a try due to some circumstances. The cook responded admiringly, "Of course she'll like it, because you can hardly smell the carrots in the juice. The apple flavor is more pronounced in it, so she should like it." The taste of the juice seemed truly incredible to the man. Maya happily thanked him for such warm words. Raka stood at the door, wondering what was going on here. He thought that the maid had advised him to look into the kitchen, and he was curious because he had never seen her so excited. The servants were very surprised by the presence of the Duke in the kitchen. Maya asked what he was doing here. She added that she is preparing vegetable juice for Aisha for breakfast, and the man asked why she was doing this. The girl hesitated, awkwardly answering that she just wanted to do it, emphasizing that the people present here have done nothing wrong. Raka was surprised by the behavior of the nanny. Why is she trying so hard on everything? He wondered if she really cared about Aisha. After all, no one usually wants to deal with twins. The Duke said she didn't need to take so much care of the girl. She is obliged to simply do the work that a nanny should do. Maya sheepishly replied that this was all true, but Aisha looked depressed all day today. She did it simply on her own, outside of her work. Raka asked again, and Maya confirmed her words. There was an awkward pause, and the girl rushed around the kitchen, not understanding anything, but believing that it was better to get out of here before he himself kicked her out of the kitchen. Maya lost a bottle of juice, and the cook handed it to the girl, saying that she had little space on the table, so he rearranged it. Maya happily thanked him for this. The girl wanted to thank the man and offered him the remaining juice. The cook was very grateful to Maya. Raka grabbed the bottle of juice meant for the cook and drank it, saying he's not that bad. Everyone present looked at the Duke in surprise. Raka noticed that everyone is free if they do nothing. Maya thought he was in a bad mood today. Suggesting that Raka might feel better if he ate sweets, Maya offered him more juice, emphasizing that it is sweet because it is made with honey. Thanks to him, perhaps the Duke's mood will lift. Raka looked at the bottle depressingly, realizing the absurdity of the act he had committed. He angrily placed the bottle on the table, ordering it to be removed, and he walked away. Maya suggested that the Duke did not like the juice. The servants embarrassedly noticed who their Duke was, who had never been interested in women. Fencing competition day. Maya sat dejectedly in the stands, dressed in a black cloak, having to go because of a wish Delcane had made. The girl thought that he would later take advantage of his privilege, as expected from the Aintia family. Maya remembered begging him to make another wish. After all, she had good reasons to disagree. To which the boy replied that it was she who said that promises should be kept. He was disappointed. Aisha played along with her brother as best she could. Maya could not object, but she was terrified that if she was caught, she would go to the temple, and then she would die. Next to her, in the same long black cloak, sat Raka. With his hands folded on his chest, he seriously said that Maya would no longer promise that she would fulfill the wishes of the twins. The girl agreed. She suddenly noticed that there were more blondes with blue eyes than she thought. It seemed to her that everything was not so bad. Maya said that in this case she will not be caught. And as soon as she touched the hood, Raka pulled it over her face, telling her not to even think about taking off the cape. The girl whined that she didn't try to take it off. The Duke replied sarcastically. Apparently it was his imagination. And Maya hesitated since she had nothing to answer, and she grumbled, asking if the Duke considered her a child because she also did not want to be found and sent to the temple. An awkward silence fell between them. Maya thought that she had said too much, and then Raka asked why she ran away from the temple. Maya thought about it. The novel tells that after the second blessing, Maya's life began to fall apart. She knew that Raka knew how to keep her mouth shut, but how could she tell him about this? Just as she was about to respond, the arrival of His Majesty the Emperor was announced. People rushed closer to the field. Everyone wanted to see the Emperor. Pandemonium began. Maya, standing on her tiptoes, tried to see what was happening. The men next to her were arguing for a place, because they had both never seen the Emperor, and the girl was worried about falling under the hot hand. Raka invited her to hold his hand. Maya became very nervous, saying that everything is fine. And suddenly they push her and the girl, almost falling, grabs the Duke's hand. She tremblingly thanks the man for his help. Raka said eerily that he thought they wanted to die, so they had lost their minds. And Maya abruptly released him, admiringly telling Raka to see what a good view they had. She thought that God's daughter still needed to control reckless killings today. Seeing the Emperor, Maya thought, this is the strength of the main character. She said in fascination how beautiful he was. Its beauty could be felt from a distance. Raka looked at the girl in surprise, asking if she was the one who was avoiding His Majesty. Maya replied that it was true, but why was he so interested in it? Raka turned away, telling her not to pay attention to it. Aisha and Delcane were waiting for the tournament to begin. The boy examined his sword, asking for his sister's sword for comparison. After looking at both swords, he realized that the hilt of his sword was very loose. Delcane said his sword was broken. Aisha insisted to go now and change it, which is what my brother did. He thought it was strange, because the event was quite serious. The man involved in the organizational activities told the young master that they would not be able to exchange his sword because they did not have a spare one, and asked him to forgive them. Now the boy was absolutely sure that something was wrong here. The Emperor was informed about what had happened, and he admired the young master's intelligence. The servant said, despite the broken sword, he did not refuse to participate in the competition. The boy aroused Kynes' interest. However, no matter how good his skills were, whether he could defeat the son of Count Monteris remained in doubt. This reminded the Emperor of the first time he saw the twins. At that time, the past Duke and Duchess went missing. Therefore, the Emperor went to their mansion to assess the situation. When he saw the twins, he noticed their eyes staring at him. 2 pairs of violet eyes shone eerily, which is not typical for children. Therefore, he believed that these children could not grow up weak. Queens assumed that Monteris was very talented. Looking around, he asked the servant where Duke Aintia was. The man replied that Duke Aintia's carriage was not there. Kynes found this strange. He believed that the Duke, who cared so much about the twins, could not help but come today. The Emperor wondered where he could be. He noticed Miss Aintia waving to someone, and Kynes looked closely at the stands, finding the Duke waving back. It was clear from the Duke's appearance that he deliberately wanted to hide. The Emperor noticed the Duke smiling at someone next to him, but could not understand who could go with him to such a place. Kynes ordered Viego to find out who was sitting next to Duke Aintia. Meanwhile, Maya admired Aisha's quick victory. Raka emphasized that the enemy was weak. That's why it was so easy. Maya objected, saying that the Duke must praise the girl when she returns. The man asked again with disgust. Maya exclaimed that this must be done. She was beginning to understand why Aisha was so eager for praise. The Duke stubbornly stood his ground. He did not understand why it was necessary to praise the girl, despite the fact that she won the duel. The girl smiled welcomingly and told Raka that Aisha just needs to be praised. At that moment, she seemed especially sweet and attractive to him. Raka was so fascinated by Maya that he even stopped arguing with her. The girl thought that he fell silent because he did not understand her. The gates to the arena opened and Delcane stepped out. He was equipped specifically for the tournament and had steel bracers and leg protection. The boy went up to the arena, where he had to compete with another participant of the same kind, and the start of the competition was announced to them. The fight began, and Delcane was ready to win. He was confronted by a boy in steel armor who attacked uncontrollably. Maya and Raka watched the competition from the stands. The girl waved her hand and shouted words of encouragement for Delcane. It seemed to her that the boy was upset about something. Maya noticed that the sword Delcane was using to fight began to wobble, and she couldn't understand why this happened. Delcane's opponent struck again. The boy managed to react and blocked it with his sword, but the blade could not stand it and slipped out of the hilt. Nobody expected this to happen. Delcane was scared because his sword broke, and at that moment he was wounded. Maya was very afraid for the boy's condition. Raka reassured the girl that Delcane's wound was not serious. She didn't understand how anyone could be calm after seeing something like this. The girl came to her senses a little and looked at the Duke. It was noticeable that the man was much more worried about the boy than she was. Maya decides to support Rock and takes his hand. She says that Delcane will be able to stop the fight himself if everything goes wrong. Raka looked at the girl. Maya tried to encourage the man with his own words. The girl reminds him that Delcane was not seriously injured. Words of support from Maya did not help calm the man. The Duke was very indignant at what happened in the arena and called someone an insolent person. Raka suddenly turned around and walked somewhere. He promised the girl to return soon. Maya excitedly tried to ask him about what happened, but heard nothing in response. The girl wanted to know where the Duke suddenly went. She was left alone and worried about what to do next with the fight, and thought that perhaps she should have stopped it. Delcane's hand was wounded, but he had no intention of stopping the fight. The boy thought that he could take the chance and steal the weapon, but the enemy was still strong. Delcane's rival arrogantly suggested that the boy give up if he did not want a similar injury to happen to his other arm. It seemed to the boy that he was able to weaken his opponent's vigilance. The enemy saw that Delcane was not going to give up and rushed to attack him. Delcane was ready to repel the attack. He concentrated as much as possible in order to find his opponent's weak point. Suddenly, the boy heard someone shout and call his opponent crazy for going to attack an unarmed man. Delcane turned around and saw Aisha running into the arena. The girl became enraged and began to create a ball of black magic aura. Aisha threatened that she would not leave this unpunished and was going to attack Delcane's opponent. The boy in armor prepared to repel Aisha's attack. She rushed at him with all her might and was ready to use black magic. An explosion of incredible power occurred in the arena. Clouds of smoke and dust enveloped everything so heavily that the participants in the fight were not visible. The explosion did not hit Delcane, and he was still on his feet. The boy covered his face with his hand and began to blame Aisha for her crazy act. The silhouette of a man appeared behind Delcane. Through the dust and smoke he managed to see it. It was the brother whose appearance surprised the boy. Raka inquired about the condition of the boy's hand. Delcane replied that he was fine because the cut was not deep at all. Raka praised his younger brother and patted his head. The Duke invited the boy to go to the carriage and rest, and in the meantime, he intended to fix everything here. Delcane asked what to do with the tournament now. Raka suggested that because Aisha barged into the fight, it could be considered a disqualification and the tournament would be over. There was panic in the stands, and people were running in different directions. Maya was excited about what was happening because Raka told her to stay put, and he himself went somewhere. The girl decided that she needed to stay put because they might not find each other later, and this could become a big problem. Among the people in the stands, Maya notices an unfamiliar man who, as it seemed to her, was looking in the direction of the girl, and then began to approach her. Maya was scared, and now began to understand where she got her bad feeling from. The girl decided that she needed to return to the carriage and wait there for Raku and the twins. She tried to move away from the unknown man, but he caught up with her and took her hand. Then he asked for some time. The girl pulled back her hand and politely answered the man that she was in a hurry and tried to stop the conversation. Maya needed to leave urgently, but she didn't know how to do it. The man tried to ask the girl her name, but she replied that he should introduce himself first. He thought for a moment and began to introduce himself. Without waiting for the man's answer, Maya ran away in horror. There was no way she could allow herself to be caught and ruin all the girl's plans. Maya quickly walked towards the carriage. She ran through the exit, which was crowded, so Maya hoped to get lost among the crowd and escape from her pursuer. Among the people, the girl heard passers-by excitedly discussing the boy who was bleeding. The nanny was very scared for Delcane's well-being and decided to check it out. The girl headed in the direction from which she heard this conversation and found Delcane, who stood alone and pressed his hand to the wound. Maya told the boy not to move. Maya grabbed Delcane in her arms and hurried to the carriage. The boy explained to the girl that he was completely fine and she should have let him go. The girl told Delcane that she was being pursued by an unknown man and asked to follow him. The boy was able to look behind him and saw someone moving behind them on the right side. After running through several alleys, Maya and Delcane were able to reach the carriage. The girl thought that they would not be persecuted here, and then discovered that the boy was bleeding heavily. Delcane reassured Maya that the wound was not deep. The nanny offered to help stop the bleeding, but she understood that now she could not get out of the carriage and buy something for this. Suddenly, Raka opened the door to the carriage and did not immediately notice Maya and Delcane. The Duke invited Aisha to wait for him inside, while he himself wanted to go to find the priestess. Maya was very happy when she saw Raku. Now she could feel safe, and the boy's wound could be treated calmly. Raka did not expect to see the girl in the carriage and was very surprised. He believed that the girl was still waiting for him in the stands. Aisha was happy to see the Unni and sat down next to her. The girl boasted about her victory in the competition, and Maya praised her for it. Aisha inquired about her brother's well-being, but he was indignant because she was making a lot of noise and they began to quarrel. The emperor was delighted with what happened. Before this day, he would never have thought that Duke Aintia would worry so much about his twins and come out to the stadium. Viego asked Emperor Kynes for forgiveness for failing to complete his task. The man admitted that he lost her halfway and did not understand how she managed to escape. The emperor doubted that the girl could be a saint. He had heard that God's daughter was weak. During the pursuit, Viego managed to notice one strange feature of the girl. Her eyes were blue. In the evening at the Duke's house, Maya sat on the bed and asked Raka about Delcane's condition. The man explained that after taking the medicine, the boy would be fine. Raka learned from Delcane that Maya had been pursued by a knight during the day and wanted to find out more details from the girl. Maya thought about it and said that the man pursuing her wanted to ask the girl about who she was. Raka asked to remember what that person looked like. The girl tried to remember the knight's appearance. She described a man dressed in armor who had a large scar on his face near his mouth. The Duke assumed that he knew who might have had such a cut scar. Raka told Maya that she was being pursued by the emperor's assistant. Maya was very excited when she learned that the emperor personally wanted to check her identity. Raka calmed the girl down and promised to take care of it. The girl thought that until now, no one had found out who she really was. Maya had a contract with the Duke, and she hoped that he would help her not end up back in the temple. The next morning, Maya woke up in her bed. The girl stretched and noticed that she managed to sleep well today. Maya found an empty chair near her bed and noticed that the Duke always woke up before her in the morning. The girl went out onto the balcony to breathe fresh air and enjoy the rays of the sun. Maya believed that she needed to be more hardworking. From the balcony, Maya saw something in the yard that made her very excited. The girl warned the maid that she would go outside for a while. Delcane sat on his knees on the grass near the place where he buried Puri and missed his pet. Maya approached the boy from behind and asked what he was doing here. He did not expect to see her and was very surprised when Maya arrived. The boy wondered how his daughter-in-law could find out about this place. The girl pointed her finger at the balcony and explained that her room was there. Maya repeated her question to Delcane. The boy touched the place where there was no grass growing and replied that he was just playing with the dirt here. The nanny suggested that something was buried in this place. Delcane was surprised by this and asked her how she found out, and Maya said that earlier she accidentally saw him digging something here. The boy admitted that he buried his and Aisha's beloved pet Puri here. Delcane said he gave the animal something he liked, but he didn't seem to care. Maya asked Delcane to list her the things that made her pet happy. The boy said that Puri liked stones covered with moss and bones, and also poisonous mushrooms. The girl thought that the pet could have died precisely because of this. Delcane shared that Puri always wandered around so funny so he and Aisha gave him what he wanted. He said that unlike how Maya managed to help her brother, Raka could not save their pet using black magic. The boy lowered his head and said that the girl was able to bring her older brother back to life as he was, but with Pwiri, it was different. He blamed himself for holding on to him until the last. Delcane asked that the fact that he buried Pwiri be kept secret. He explained this by saying that Aisha said that she liked the current Pwiri better because he was not so loud. The boy smiled embarrassedly and told the girl that he had decided to deliberately bury him in the backyard of the extension, but Maya noticed this. The girl was amazed at how much the boy loved Pwiri that he constantly visited him. Delcane stood up and was about to leave this place. Looking at the boy, Maya could tell that he looked like there was nothing wrong with him. He never cried, but the girl felt that in his soul, everything was completely different. Maya walked up to the boy and hugged him. She told Delcane that although it was hard for him to let go of his pet, it would put Pwiri in a good place.